The lake had always been a liar. In Daemon's last memory, it had been cold enough to bite through mail, cold enough to make his lungs clench shut as if the world itself had decided he had spoken his final word. He remembered the snap of wind around Caraxes' torn wings, the furious red of Aemon's eye-catching moonlight as he turned, the taste of blood and rain and burning, then the plunge, the weight of water, the long black pull. And then nothing, for so long that time stopped being a road and became a sea. Now the gods I gave him back like a secret it could no longer keep. First came heat. It climbed through him from somewhere deep beneath bone, as if a coal had been pressed into the hollow of his chest and commanded to become a heart. He tried to draw breath and found mud in his mouth. He tried to move and found the world gripping him with wet hands. The mud held him like a lover that would not be refused, slick and jealous. A voice cut through, harsh and ringing with foreign cadence. Another answered, and another. Words rose and fell like waves breaking on rocks. Prayer, promise, hunger. Firelight found the inside of Daemon's eyelids. Even with his eyes closed he saw it. The twisting orange, the sudden flares of red so deep it might have been blood. The shapes within the flames that were not flame at all. A sword, a crown, a wall of ice. A girl with hair like milk and eyes like bruised amethysts. His fingers dug into something that gave. His nails tore free of silt and root. He heaved upward with the blind stubbornness that had carried him through tourneys and sieges and beds. The mud tried to drag him down again. He snarled without sound, and the snarl became breath, and breath became a cough that brought up black water and filth. He broke the surface of the earth as if being born. Night slapped him, rain cold and sharp. The smell of reeds and smoke, the crackle of oil-fed fire. He blinked, and the world sharpened. A ring of crimson-robed figures around a low pyre. Their faces shone, slick with sweat, eyes wide as men staring at a thing that should not exist. Daemon pushed himself to his knees. Mud streamed off him in ropes. His hair hung in pale, wet strands across his face, but the silver still caught the fire as if it remembered what it had been made for. The skin of his hands looked wrong, scarred in places, new in others, as if he had been torn apart and stitched back without care for artistry. His chest rose and fell with quick, unbelieving breaths. One of the priests stepped back and made a warding sign, palms outward, trembling. Another sank to his knees so quickly his robe splashed in a puddle. Their chanting faltered into a broken murmur. Daemon's gaze found the thing in their circle that mattered. A glint of dark metal near the mound where he had risen, half buried in silt. He knew that color. He knew that shine. Valyrian steel did not rust. It remembered. His hand closed around the hilt with a familiarity so intimate it felt like relief. Dark Sister came free with a soft, sucking sound, the blade black as a starless sky, edges catching firelight in cold ribbons. Mud slid down it and fell away as if ashamed to touch. At the sight of the sword, the priest who knelt began to weep. Daemon rose, unsteady only for a heartbeat, then steadied himself on anger. His body felt like it belonged to someone else, heavier, as if death had left stones inside him. But the anger was his own, sharp and clean. He lifted Dark Sister and let the fire gild it, a warning and a question. "Who are you?" His voice scraped out hoarse, as though it had been sleeping under water for a century. The nearest priest tried to speak and failed. His mouth opened, then shut. The others stared at Daemon as if at a dead king returned to collect a debt. One found his courage in devotion and stepped forward. He was older than the rest, his hair oiled back, his beard braided with little copper rings. The red robe clung to him, rain-darkened, and on his throat a burned scar made a pale rope against brown skin. "Daemon Targaryen," the priest said, and in the name there was triumph and terror together. "Daemon of House Targaryen, returned by the Lord of Light." Daemon's eyes narrowed. The words meant nothing to him and everything. House Targaryen was no stranger to gods, but it had never belonged to any of them. "I was returned by no one," he said. "I returned." The priest swallowed. Behind him the pyre snapped, a log shifting, and sparks leapt up like tiny living things trying to escape. "We saw you in the flames," the priest said quickly, as if afraid of losing his chance. "Long before we came to this cursed shore, we saw the dragon drowned and the prince who would not stay dead. We were sent. The fire demanded." Daemon took a step forward. Mud squelched beneath his feet. He did not feel it. The priest faltered, and Daemon smiled, slow and humorless. "Demanded what?" Daemon asked. "That you wake me so I might listen to sermons?" The older priest's eyes flicked to Dark Sister. "To make war," he said. "To stand against the great other. To bring fire where there is cold. The night is coming." "Night always comes," Daemon said, and it was not mockery. It was memory. "I have seen it. I have flown through it. I have drowned in it." The priest's gaze sharpened as if he heard something in Daemon's words. "Then you know," he whispered. "You know the darkness beyond darkness." Daemon did not answer. He stared past them toward the lake. The water lay black and flat, rain stippling its surface into countless trembling circles. Beyond it, the world was a smear of shadow. Reeds, trees, distant stone. He expected to see banners, torches, the familiar shapes of men-at-arms on patrol. He expected to hear the clank of armor, the shout of sentries. Instead, there was only the hiss of rain and the crackle of fire and the wild pounding of his own reborn heart. Something was wrong. Not the resurrection, that was madness, yes, but it was the kind of madness a man could recognize. What was wrong was the silence. The sky, too. The stars were set as they had always been, but the air carried a smell that didn't belong, a faint tang of old smoke and new iron. And in the distance, where Harrenhal should have brooded like a scar on the land, it did brood, but it looked more broken than he remembered, as if time had taken bites out of it. Daemon turned his head slowly. "What year is it?" The priests exchanged glances. One of them flinched as if struck. The older priest wet his lips. "Year?" he repeated, confused. Daemon's patience snapped. He lifted Dark Sister until its point hovered at the priest's throat, close enough that the man's breath fogged the blade. "What year?" Daemon said again, each word a cut. "Who sits the Iron Throne? Who rules Dragonstone? How many dragons remain?" The priest's eyes brimmed again, but this time with something like awe. "No dragons remain," he said, voice shaking. "None in Westeros. They died long ago. The last were bones before my grandfather's grandfather was born." Daemon held still. In his mind, dragons screamed. "No," he said softly, not to the priest but to the world. "No." The older priest dared to speak quickly, to fill the gap before Daemon's disbelief became violence. "Men sit the throne," he said. "Stags and lions. The dragon kings are gone, their line broken, save for 2 across the water. 2 silver-haired children, hunted. 1 boy with a crown in his dreams and no bread in his hands. 1 girl promised to a horse lord for an army." The rain seemed to stop for a heartbeat. Daemon stared, and the fire in the pyre flared as if responding. In its light he saw the vision again. The girl's face, half in shadow, eyes too old for her years. A boy beside her, pale and sharp, rage held together by pride like thread around a cracked cup. 2 across the water. His blood, his house. "Where?" Daemon said, and his voice had turned into something that left no room for refusal. "Where are they?" The older priest's shoulders slumped with relief at having something he could give. "Pentos," he said. "In the free cities. They are kept by a magister in fat silk. He means to sell them to the Dothraki." The flames showed. "Enough flames," Daemon said. He lowered Dark Sister, and the priest exhaled shakily. Daemon looked down at himself. Mud, scars, skin drawn tight where it should have been loose with age. He should have been older, much older. He should have been dead. Yet his hands were strong, his shoulders solid beneath the filth, his body held together by some brutal refusal. "You pulled me out," Daemon said to the priests. "Why did your god choose me, of all men?" The older priest's eyes shone. Because you are fire, he said. Because you are dragon blood. Because the world needs a sword again. Daemon laughed once, short and sharp as a snapped twig. The world does not need a sword, he said. It needs dragons. He turned toward the lake, and the priests shifted uneasily. The dragon you seek is dead, one of the younger priests blurted. Its carcass rotted in the water. The bones. Daemon stopped. His back was to them, but his voice carried over the rain. So did mine, he said. Yet here I stand. He walked to the water's edge. Reeds brushed his calves like fingers. The lake smelled of wet earth and old secrets. He knelt and dipped his hand into the black surface. The water was cold. It did not recognize him. Daemon closed his eyes and tasted the air. Beneath the rain and rot there was something else. A faint bite of brimstone, distant and familiar. Dragon. Always dragon. He spoke in high Valyrian. The words rough from disuse but true. A command braided with affection and iron. Caraxes, he called, and the name fell into the water like a stone. The lake did not answer. Daemon opened his eyes and looked into the darkness. Caraxes, he called again, louder. Behind him the priests began to murmur, fearful. The older one stepped forward as if to stop him, then thought better of it. The pyre crackled like nervous laughter. Daemon's jaw tightened. He remembered a long red neck coiled around towers, a scream that could split men's courage, wings that beat storms into shape. He remembered the warmth of a dragon's mind against his own, sharp and hungry and loyal. That bond did not simply end. Death did not cut it. Death did not cut anything, not if a man refused. He stood and lifted Dark Sister high. Caraxes? Daemon roared into the rain, and there was no prayer in it, only claim. For a moment, the only sound was water and fire and breath. Then the gods I shuddered. A ripple ran across the black surface, fast as a whip crack. Reeds bent away as if from an unseen wind. The water began to bubble, not with gentle air but with violent heaving, as though the lake itself was being boiled from beneath. The priests cried out, stumbling back. The goat in its tether bleated and strained until the rope snapped. Daemon did not move. He watched the center of the lake as if watching a door. Something rose. At first it was only a ridge, dark and slick, cutting the water. Then a horn shape broke the surface, water pouring off it in sheets. A head, long and narrow, jaws lined with teeth the color of old bone. An eye opened, red, deep, and wrong in its brightness, like a coal lit from within. Caraxes' scream tore out of the lake and ripped through the rain. A sound that belonged to war and sky and fire. A sound no living man in this age should have heard. Daemon smiled, and in that smile was every sin he had ever loved. Caraxes hauled himself from the lake like a living wound. His wings came up slow, heavy with water, membranes tattered and torn into ribbons. For a heartbeat, Daemon saw the truth beneath the miracle. Exposed bone, pale and slick, muscle dark as bruised meat, the ruin of a creature that had died in fury and been left to rot under black water. Then the heat built. It began at Caraxes' throat, a pulse that made the air tremble. The torn membranes shivered as if in pain, and along their ragged edges a red glow crawled like embers eating through cloth. Scale regrew over bone in rippling sheets. The exposed places sealed as though an invisible hand pressed them closed with fire. Daemon felt it in his own chest, that same coal heart responding. The bond snapped tight between them, not broken by centuries, only stretched until it sang. Caraxes' eye fixed on him. The dragon's mind pressed into Daemon's like a familiar weight, sharp, hungry, furious, and underneath it all, a thread of recognition that felt like home. Daemon stepped forward into the steam and mud. "Jelenka," he said softly, "my friend, my arrow, my blood-red curse." And Caraxes lowered his head until the long snout hovered a breath above Daemon's face. Water dripped from serrated teeth. The dragon breathed out, and the smell was not rot but smoke, clean and bitter. Daemon lifted his left hand, palm open. Caraxes' tongue, rough as forged leather, dragged across Daemon's fingers with a possessive swipe. The dragon made a sound deep in his throat, a low rumble that was both question and demand. Daemon's laugh came out steadier now. "Yes," he told him. "Yes, we are not done." Behind him, the priests had gathered themselves enough to speak again, though their voices were thin with fear. "The Lord of Light has returned you both," the older priest said, almost pleading. Daemon did not look back. "Your god did not return my dragon," he said. "I did." The priest's breath caught, offended or terrified. "Blasphemy! Faith," Daemon said, and the word tasted like ash. He swung his leg up and climbed Caraxes' neck with the ease of old habit, fingers finding ridges between scales. There was no saddle. Any leather would have rotted long ago. But Caraxes shifted under him, adjusting, offering his spine as he always had. Daemon settled between two spines and felt the dragon's heat bleed through his wet clothes. When Caraxes rose fully onto the shore, mud sucking at his claws, the ground trembled. The younger priests ran, splashing through puddles, robes flapping. The older priest stood his ground, eyes shining with wild devotion. "Daemon Targaryen," he called, voice raised over the rain. "You will need us. You will need the fire's guidance." The flames showed a path. Daemon finally turned his head enough that the priest could see the cold edge of his smile. "If you wish to live," Daemon said, "then you will stay behind me, and you will not speak unless spoken to." The priest bowed his head, not in submission to Daemon, but in submission to the thing he believed Daemon to be. "As you command," he whispered. Daemon nudged Caraxes with his heels, and the dragon's wings unfurled, vast and dripping, catching lightning's pale flash. The beat of them drove rain sideways.
Reeds flattened.
Smoke from the pyre tore away and went streaming across the shore. As they climbed, Daemon's view widened over the lake. The god's eye spread like an obsidian mirror, and beyond it, the land rolled away in darkness. A jagged shadow sat on the far horizon. Harrenhal. He had seen it as a proud ruin once, black towers clawing at the sky. Now those towers looked more broken, as if time had chewed them down. Stone collapsed into itself. Whole sections were gone. Daemon's stomach tightened. "How long?" he murmured. Caraxes banked, responding to the tension like a hound scenting prey. As they climbed, rain grew colder. The wind hit Daemon's face and stripped the lake's stink from him. For the first time since waking, he felt clean enough to think. The world beneath was wrong in small ways at first. Roads were in different places. Villages sat where there had once been forest. Some castles that should have been there were missing. Others stood where they should not. He saw fields marked in neat squares, far more orderly than the patchwork he remembered. He saw a stone sept with a 7-pointed star on its roof that did not exist in his day, or if it did, not there. And banners. He searched for the dragon, for black and red, for the 3 heads. He saw none. Instead, near a crossroads inn, he spotted a line of wagons creeping through mud, escorted by men in dull mail. Their shields bore a leaping trout. Daemon's breath stopped. The Tullus had ruled the Trident in his time, yes, but he expected to see dragon banners over them, dragons in the sky, the sense of a realm welded by fire. Yet the men below looked up at Caraxes and did not cheer or point in recognition. They screamed. Horses reared. A guard dropped his spear and fell backward into a puddle. The men scattered, some running for the trees, some throwing themselves flat in the mud as if the earth might swallow them again. Daemon stared down, chilled in a way the rain could not explain.
No dragons.
No memory. Fear, not awe. A century. 2. 3. How long had he slept? Caraxes' scream rolled over the wagons like thunder. Daemon felt the dragon's hunger, hot and immediate. Men were meat. Fear tasted sweet. "No," Daemon said, not gently. He pressed a hand against the warm ridge of Caraxes' neck, not a caress but a claim. "Not now." Caraxes' mind pushed back, petulant and sharp. Daemon met it with iron, and the dragon relented with a resentful rumble, banking away. They flew east, toward the narrow sea, toward the place where Daemon had once imagined he might flee if Westeros ever became unbearable. He had never fled. He had always come back, drawn by pride and blood. Now the blood drew him but it was not his own pride this time. It was necessity. If the Targaryen line truly stood as two hunted children across the sea, then the world had stolen everything he had believed permanent. Daemon did not forgive theft. He needed information. He needed clothing. He needed gold. And he needed to be sure that the priest's words were not simply madness wrapped in prophecy. Caraxes dropped lower over a wooded stretch, and Daemon spotted a hunting party. 3 riders, cloaks snapping in the rain, their dogs straining at leashes. One of the men carried a lantern that cast a weak yellow pool. Another bore a longbow. Their horses were strong, better fed than peasants. Daemon guided Caraxes down behind a hill. The dragon folded himself into the trees with surprising stealth for something so large, neck snaking between branches, wings tucked close. Steam rose off him like breath. Daemon slid down and walked toward the riders on foot, Dark Sister sheathed at his hip beneath the mud-smeared remnants of whatever clothing had returned with him. He stepped into their lantern light like a ghost. The first rider jerked, fumbling for his sword. "Who?" Daemon's hand shot out and seized the man's wrist, twisting. The sword clattered into mud. Daemon drove an elbow into the rider's throat, hard enough to crush voice into silence. The man slid sideways from the saddle like a sack. The second rider tried to shout, tried to spur his horse away. Daemon's blade sang free, dark and quick. The cut was clean. The man's shout became a wet gurgle. The third rider froze, eyes huge. He stared at Daemon's silver hair, the pale face streaked with mud, the black blade that drank lantern light. "Witch," he whispered. "Daemon." Daemon reached up and took the man by the jaw, forcing his face closer. "What year is it?" Daemon asked, voice calm, as if requesting a cup of wine. The man shook, tears mixing with rain. 200, he babbled. 298 after Aegon's conquest. 7 save us, please. Daemon felt something inside him go still. 298. He had died in 130. He had been dead for 168 years. He released the man's jaw and stepped back. The hunter sagged, sobbing. Daemon's gaze dropped to the man's cloak. Thick wool, better than rags. And his boots and his belt with a pouch that jingled with coin. Daemon took the coin, the cloak, the boots. He left the man alive, not out of mercy, but because the man was nothing. Daemon did not waste effort on nothing. He returned to Caraxes with his spoils. The dragon's eye gleamed red through leaves. Daemon pulled the cloak around his shoulders. The wool scratched his skin, but it was warm. "Pentos?" Daemon murmured, tasting the name. 2 children, fat magister, a horse lord. Caraxes hissed softly, impatient. Daemon looked back once toward the west, toward the unseen Iron Throne. "Stags and lions," the priest had said. His mouth twisted. "Let them keep their chair," Daemon whispered. "I will take something older." He climbed Caraxes again. The dragon surged up through the trees, wings beating rain into mist. Ahead, the sky began to lighten faintly at the horizon. Not dawn, but the thinning of storm clouds. The world's edge. Across that edge waded his blood. The sea tried to throw him back. Daemon had crossed water 100 times in his life. Narrow straits, wide bays, the black mouth of the gullet when warships burned and men drowned screaming. But flying over the narrow sea on a dragon resurrected from rot was a different kind of crossing. The wind had teeth. The rain struck like thrown gravel. Below, waves rose and fell like the backs of beasts. Caraxes flew as if the storm belonged to him. Each beat of his wings carved a pocket of steadier air, and Daemon rode the rhythm as he had once ridden battle. Lean in, hold fast, let chaos exhaust itself against stubbornness. He felt Caraxes' heat through the wet wool, felt the dragon's fury at the sea's resistance. The bond between them pulsed, sharp with new edges. There was something in Caraxes now that had not been there before, a brightness like living flames set behind the dragon's thoughts. Daemon wondered if the same brightness lived in him. Sometimes, when lightning flashed, he saw his hands on Caraxes' neck, saw the skin there marked with faint, red lines like old burns that had healed into patterns. He blinked and the lines were gone, or perhaps they were simply hidden by rain and the shifting of scales. Either way, the sight unsettled him. He did not like being someone else's miracle. He kept his mind on Pentos, on the two children, on the way the older priest had said sold, as if it were an ordinary thing. The first sight of the free city came at dusk, when the storm finally broke into long ragged clouds and the sky turned the color of old bruises. Pentos rose pale and sprawling beneath him, its walls white as bone, its towers squared and fat. Lanterns dotted the streets like fallen stars. Beyond the walls, villas and orchards spread out, green and geometric. Demons circled high, hidden in cloud shadow. He did not want to announce himself to the city's guards. A dragon over Pentos would turn every head, and Daemon had learned long ago that a city's eyes could be as dangerous as its swords. He guided Caraxes down miles away, toward a stretch of rocky coastline where fishing shacks clung to the shore. The air smelled of salt and tar. Men mended nets by low fires, their voices carrying in a language Daemon understood but did not love. Essos common, thick with hard consonants. A fisherman looked up, saw the red bulk descending out of twilight, and dropped his net with a scream. Daemon slid down and moved quickly, keeping Caraxes half hidden behind boulders. The dragon's presence made the air tremble with heat. Fishers scattered, stumbling over rocks, some falling to their knees, arms thrown up as if begging mercy from a god. Daemon caught one man by the collar before he could flee. The man's face was leathery, his beard tangled with fish scales. His eyes rolled white in terror. "You?" Daemon said, and the fisherman flinched at the sound of Westerosi accent. "What do you know of a boy called Viserys Targaryen and a girl called Daenerys Targaryen?" The fisherman blinked, confused and terrified. "Targaryen?" he stammered. "The dragon lords? They're dead." Daemon tightened his grip until the fisherman's toes barely touched the ground. "They are alive," Daemon said. "Answer." The fisherman choked. There is a silver-haired beggar prince," he gasped. "They say he lives in the manse of Magister Illyrio Mopatis. They say he eats the Magister's bread and spits on the floor. They say his sister is pretty as a painted saint. They say." Daemon released him. The fisherman collapsed, coughing. Daemon turned away, heart steadying. Illyrio Mopatis, a name fat with coin even on a fisherman's tongue. Good. Names were handles. With handles you could pull. He looked back at Caraxes. The dragon watched him, eye gleaming. The sea breeze ruffled the long spines along Caraxes' neck. There were old scars there, half hidden now under regrown scales. Daemon felt an odd surge of gratitude. "We will go carefully," Daemon said, as if Caraxes were a soldier who needed instruction. "No warning." "Not yet." Caraxes' nostrils flared, exhaling smoke. Daemon took a path along the coast toward the city, cloak drawn up, hood shadowing his silver hair. He moved like a man who knew how to vanish even when he did not wish to. He had spent enough years in Flea Bottom and in enemy camps to understand that the right posture could make you invisible. Pentos at night was a river of lanterns and voices. Perfume fought with the stink of fish. Slaves moved with lowered eyes, collars glinting. Merchants argued over bolts of silk. Soldiers in bright lacquered armor laughed too loudly, spears idle in their hands. Daemon walked through it all as if it were a dream someone else was having. He heard the name Illyrio more than once, spoken with envy and contempt. He followed the sound of wealth, heavier footsteps on clean stone, the jingle of coin, the rustle of fine cloth. He watched for guards who looked like they were paid too well. At last he found the outer wall of Illyrio Mopatis' manse, pale stone carved with vines and fat grapes. Torches burned in iron brackets. Two guards stood by the main gate, their helms crested, their spears polished. Daemon did not go to the gate. He circled, slipping into the shadow of an orchard where trees grew in neat rows, branches heavy with late fruit. A servant passed carrying a basket, head down. Daemon stepped behind him and pressed a hand over his mouth. "Quiet," Daemon murmured into the servant's ear. "Or you'll die." The servant froze, trembling. Daemon could smell his fear, sharp as vinegar. "Which rooms belong to Viserys Targaryen and Daenerys Targaryen?" Daemon asked. The servant's eyes darted. He nodded frantically and pointed with a shaking finger toward a wing of the manse where windows glowed faintly behind curtains. Daemon released him. The servant stumbled away, sobbing silently. Daemon waited in the orchard, watching the wing, listening. Voices drifted through the night. Laughter, music, the clink of cups. Somewhere inside, Illyrio entertained. Daemon's mind moved like a knife, stripping possibilities. If the children were truly guests, they would be housed well but kept close, watched. If Illyrio meant to sell them, he would keep them alive but not free. He would not risk them slipping away. So there would be guards, perhaps discreet, perhaps overt. Daemon found a side door and watched it. Twice a guard passed, not in uniform, but with the casual alertness of a man whose job is to watch without seeming to watch. Daemon marked his face. Then another. Patterns. He circled again, found a drain pipe that ran down from the roof. Stone carvings gave handholds. Daemon climbed as he had once climbed walls for sport, muscles remembering even if his mind still reeled from the century and more he had lost. On the roof, rainwater pooled in shallow basins. The tiles were slick. Daemon moved on hands and feet, low and quiet. He reached a window above the wing and listened. Inside, a man's voice, sharp with anger, spoke in Valyrian accented common. "You do not touch me," it snapped. "You do not speak to me as if I were a slave. I am the dragon. I am the blood of kings." A softer voice answered, cautious. A girl, Daemon guessed. "I did not mean." "Silence!" The boy's voice rose. If not for you and your whining." Daemon's jaw tightened. He had known princes like that. He had been a prince like that, in his own way, proud, restless, convinced the world owed him the shape he wanted. But he had never sounded like a man already defeated. He eased the window open, just enough to see. A small room, neat and richly furnished, but with a caged feeling to it. A boy stood near the hearth, thin under fine clothes that did not quite fit, silver hair cut short and uneven as if hacked with a knife. His hands were clenched, his eyes, purple, furious, fixed on a girl sitting on the bed, her own silver hair longer, falling in a pale curtain down her back. She was younger, smaller, wrapped in a robe as if she had tried to make herself disappear. Viserys and Daenerys. Daemon stared at them as if they were ghosts, and for a moment he felt something in his chest that was not cold but ache. Not because he loved them, he did not know them, but because he knew what it meant to be the last of something, to carry a name like a wound. Viserys paced, anger spilling out in words. Daenerys watched him with wide, wary eyes, absorbing each lash as if she had learned long ago that flinching only drew more. Daemon slipped inside without a sound. The window closed behind him with a soft click. Viserys spun at the noise, eyes flaring. "Who?" he began, reaching for a dagger on a table. Daemon stepped into the firelight. Daenerys's breath caught. Viserys froze as if his mind could not decide whether to scream or demand obeisance. Daemon let his hood fall back. Silver hair to silver hair, purple eyes to purple eyes. Viserys' mouth opened. No sound came out. Daemon spoke first, voice low. "Viserys Targaryen," he said, and the boy flinched at hearing his name from a stranger's mouth. "Daenerys Targaryen." Daenerys' gaze flicked to Dark Sister at Daemon's hip, then back to his face. "Who are you?" she whispered. Viserys found his voice in outrage. "How dare you?" He began, and then his eyes fixed on Daemon's sword hilt, on the dragonbone grip, on the shape of it like something from a song. His voice faltered. That is not." Daemon stepped closer. The fire painted his scars gold. "It is," he said. He drew Dark Sister in a slow, deliberate motion. The blade drank the firelight, returning it as a cold gleam. Viserys stared as if hypnotized. "Dark Sister," he breathed, and Daemon noted the recognition with grim satisfaction. The boy had at least been taught the names of his dead. Daemon angled the blade so its flat caught the hearth glow. "And I am the man who carried her," Daemon said. "Daemon of House Targaryen." Viserys laughed, sharp and disbelieving. "Daemon is dead," he snapped. "Daemon died in the dance 100 and..." He stopped, eyes widening as if he had done the math and could not bear the answer. Daemon watched him struggle with the truth. "I was dead," Daemon agreed. "Now I am not." Daenerys rose slowly from the bed, robe clutched tight. She moved like a fawn that has learned to watch for wolves. Her eyes never left Daemon's face. "Why are you here?" she asked. Daemon looked at her, and something in her steadiness surprised him. She was frightened. He could see it in the way her fingers trembled against the fabric. But she did not break. She asked the question that mattered. "Because you are mine," Daemon said simply. They ran until Pentos blurred into a maze of wet stone and flickering light. Daemon moved like a blade through cloth, clean, direct, cutting a path and leaving confusion behind. He did not waste breath on comfort. He did not slow for Viserys stumbling. When the boy tripped, Daemon yanked him up by the arm hard enough to bruise. When Daenerys faltered, he touched her shoulder once, a brief pressure that said keep going, and she did. Behind them, Illyrio Mopatis's manse woke like a kicked anthill.
Belsrang.
Shouts multiplied. Somewhere a dog gave tongue and was joined by two more. Daemon led them into a narrow street lined with closed stalls. Canvas awnings dripped steadily. A slaver's cart creaked past. The driver hunched under a hood, not even looking at them. Pentos was full of people running from something. At a crossing, Daemon paused. He listened. The city's sounds layered. Music from a tavern, laughter, a distant argument, the patter of rain. Beneath it, closer, the rhythm of armored boots, purposeful. He pulled them into a doorway as 3 guards hurried past, torches held high. Their faces were tense, eyes scanning. One wore a badge of Illyrio's household, a fat grape cluster stitched in gold. Viserys pressed against the wall, breathing fast. His pride had been drowned by fear, and now what remained was raw panic in purple eyes. Daenerys stood close beside him, hair damp against her cheeks, lips pressed together, gaze fixed on the guards as if memorizing them. When the guards passed, Daemon moved again. He did not head for the main roads. He kept to alleys and narrow lanes where smells turned sour and the stones were slick with refuse. Slaves slept under overhangs, curled like dogs, their collars dull in the rain. A drunk staggered out of a doorway, saw Daemon's silver hair under the hood and stared, then backed away muttering a prayer. Daemon ignored him. At last, the sea smell grew stronger. The streets widened into a dockside district. Ships rocked in their moorings, masts stabbing at the wet sky. Lanterns swung on ropes, casting trembling halos over black water. Daemon searched for the spot where he had left Caraxes, rocky shore beyond the city's outer sprawl. He could not risk bringing the dragon too close to the docks yet, not with guards hunting and ships full of desperate men with crossbows. He led them along a seawall, then down a set of steps slick with algae. The waves slapped against stone. Wind came hard off the water, cold enough to make Daenerys shiver under her cloak. Viserys leaned toward Daemon, voice low and furious. "If you are truly Daemon Targaryen," he hissed, "then why do you drag us like thieves? Why not go to Illyrio and demand ships? Men? Gold?" He would kneel. Daemon stopped so suddenly Viserys nearly slammed into him. Daemon turned, and in the dockside lantern glow his face looked carved from stone. "You think men kneel because you demand it?" Daemon asked quietly. Viserys glared, trying to hold on to anger. "They should," he said. "They will when I have an army." Daemon's eyes narrowed. "When you have an army," Daemon repeated, tasting the phrase. Then he moved so close Viserys had to tilt his head back. "You have nothing," Daemon said. "Not yet. And if you keep pretending you do, you will die before you ever touch a crown." Viserys' throat bobbed. He swallowed, hate and humiliation twisting his face. "You speak treason," he hissed. "I am the dragon." Daemon leaned in until their faces were a handspan apart. "You are a dragon without flame," Daemon murmured, "and the world will eat you alive." Daenerys' voice cut in, small but steady. "Where are we going?" she asked. Daemon looked at her. The question was simple, but her eyes held something else, a readiness that did not belong to a child. She had already accepted that her life was changing again. She wanted to know the shape of the change so she could survive it. "To a dragon," Daemon said. Daenerys blinked. For a heartbeat, wonder broke through fear. "A dragon?" she whispered, as if saying it might make it real. Viserys sucked in breath. His gaze darted, greedy. "You have won," he breathed, and the words were half prayer, half hunger. "You have a dragon." Daemon did not answer. He simply turned and led them off the seawall, onto a narrow path that wound along the coast. The rocks grew sharper. The city lights thinned behind them. Rain eased into mist. The waves crashed louder. Then they rounded a boulder and Caraxes rose out of the darkness like a living cliff. Daenerys stopped dead. Her breath left her in a soft gasp. The dragon's bulk filled the cove, red scales wet and gleaming, spines ridged like a crown of knives. His head lifted, long and narrow, and his eye fixed on the three humans. Viserys took an involuntary step back. His face drained of color. The dragon was not the gentle creature of children's tales. He was a weapon that breathed. Daemon walked forward without hesitation. Caraxes lowered his head slightly, smoke curling from his nostrils. Daenerys' hands clenched in her cloak. She stared at Caraxes as if staring at a long-lost god. Viserys found his voice thin. He's yours?" he asked. Daemon turned his head just enough to look at him. "He is mine," Daemon said, "and he will remain mine." Viserys' jaw tightened, anger flaring again in spite of fear. "Dragons belong to House Targaryen," he said stubbornly. "I am House Targaryen." Daemon's smile bared teeth. "So am I," he said. Dragonstone rose from the sea like a threat remembered. Dawn bled into the horizon in thin gray strips, turning the world colorless. The island's cliffs were jagged, black volcanic rock thrust up as if the earth had tried to bite the sky and failed. The castle itself crouched atop those cliffs, a mass of dark stone shaped into dragon jaws and wings, its towers like claws. Smoke curled from the Dragonmont behind it, a constant exhale. Daemon's throat tightened with something that was not quite homesickness and not quite rage. Dragonstone had been his cradle and his cage, his inheritance and his exile. He had left it behind once, thinking he would always be able to return. Now he returned to find it held by strangers. Caraxes circled high as Daemon studied the walls. Banners fluttered from battlements. Black cloth with a crowned stag in gold. Not the three-headed dragon. Baratheon. The name landed in Daemon's mind like a foreign coin. He knew the Baratheons only as stormlords, proud, loud, powerful in their own corner. Not kings, not masters of his seat. Viserys craned his head, squinting through wind. Dragonstone, he breathed, awe and possessiveness mixing. Our home. Daemon heard the emphasis on our and almost smiled. The boy had never seen it, yet he claimed it the way men claim stories. Daenerys stared too, her face pale from cold, hair whipped around her cheeks. The castle's dragon-shaped stonework seemed to pull her gaze in, as if the place recognized her blood and she recognized it in return. "We land?" Daenerys asked, voice hoarse from wind. Daemon did not answer right away. He was measuring. Dragonstone's garrison would be alert. A dragon in the sky, even if they had never seen one, would not be ignored. Archers would loose. Men would run. If Daemon landed openly, he would have a fight on the beach, and he did not want to spill blood here unless necessary. This was still, in some twisted way, his soil. He guided Caraxes away from the main castle, toward the island's far side where cliffs fell steep and the sea pounded hard. A narrow strip of black sand lay beneath an overhang, accessible only from above. Daemon remembered it. He had used it once, as a boy, to sneak away from guards and slip into a fisherman's hut for stolen wine. Caraxes descended, wings beating slow. They landed with a thud that sent sand spraying. The moment Daemon slid down, his legs trembled from hours of riding. He steadied himself and reached up to help Daenerys. She climbed down carefully, palms pressed against Caraxes' warm scales. For a heartbeat she lingered, fingers splayed, as if she could feel something moving beneath. Life, fire, a heartbeat she wanted to trust. Viserys climbed down less gracefully, nearly slipping. He recovered with a furious glare as if the ground had insulted him. The air here tasted of salt and sulfur. The island hummed faintly beneath their feet, the Dragonmont's sleeping fire. Daemon looked up at Caraxes. "Stay," he commanded, and Caraxes lowered his head, smoke curling, eyes following him with possessive attention. Daemon felt the dragon's irritation at being left out of whatever came next. He pushed calm into the bond again. Firm. "Do not burn anything unless I tell you," Daemon added. Caraxes' tail lashed once, sending sand flying, but the dragon stayed. Daemon turned to the children. "Follow," he said. He led them along a narrow path that wound up the cliff, hidden behind a jagged outcrop. The climb was steep. Daenerys moved carefully, hands steady. Viserys complained under his breath, but he climbed, driven by the sight of the castle above. At the top, Daemon crouched behind a rock and peered toward the nearest outer wall. Men moved along the battlements, guards in dark cloaks, spears in hand. They looked bored, not expecting war. Dragonstone had always been a grim posting, a place of wind and stone, but now it belonged to a king's brother, not a dragon's son. Daemon listened. He caught snatches of speech in Westerosi common, familiar enough. One guard laughed about a shipment of salted cod. Another mentioned Lord Stannis, with the tone of a man who feared and respected the name. Stannis, Baratheon. So the king's brother held Dragonstone. Daemon filed the information away like a dagger. He looked down at the children. "We will not go through the gate," he whispered. Viserys bristled. "This is ours," he whispered back fiercely. "We should walk in. They should kneel." Daemon's eyes cut to him. "They will not kneel," Daemon said. "They will try to kill you. And they might succeed, because you are not wearing armor and you have never fought." Viserys flushed, humiliated even in a whisper. Daenerys watched Daemon, expression tight. She did not argue. She had already learned the rule. Pride did not stop blades. Daemon led them away from the wall, skirting along a ridge toward the Dragonmont. The ground grew warmer underfoot. Steam hissed from cracks in the rock. The air smelled sharper, more volcanic. The castle's silhouette fell behind. They reached a cleft between two boulders that opened into a narrow cave mouth. Daemon did not hesitate. He ducked inside. The tunnel beyond was cold at first, then gradually warmed, the stone sweating. The darkness swallowed them. Daenerys' breath sounded loud. Viserys' muttering became quieter, as if the cave demanded it. Daemon moved by memory. The tunnels under Dragonstone were older than the castle itself, carved and shaped by Valyrian hands. He had known them as a boy, had run them like a rat through walls, delighting in how they made him untouchable. The Baratheons would know of some. Stannis was not a fool, but they would not know all. Valyrians had built secrets into stone like bones into flesh. The passage narrowed, then widened into a chamber where the walls were carved in the shape of dragon ribs, curving overhead. The floor sloped downward. The air grew warmer, carrying a low, constant rumble from deep. Within the mountain, Daenerys gasped softly, breaking through again. "It's alive," she whispered. Viserys touched the wall, fingers trembling. "Our ancestors," he murmured, and his voice held reverence now, Not for gods, but for blood. Daemon said nothing. His mind was fixed on a different chamber, deeper, sealed behind stone and rune. A place he had visited once with only one other man and never spoken of again. He led them down another passage, then another, twisting and branching. The darkness pressed close. The sound of the sea faded, replaced by the mountains breathing. At last, they reached a stone door that looked like a slab of black glass fused into rock. On its surface, carved faintly, were Valyrian glyphs, old, sharp, purposeful. Viserys stared. "What is this?" he whispered. Daemon traced the glyphs with his fingers. The stone was warm. "A lock," he said. Daenerys leaned closer, eyes following his hand. "What does it say?" Daemon's mouth tightened. He read the words silently first, feeling the old memory stir. His own hand carving them, perhaps, or at least ordering them carved. Blood opens. Fire wakes. Dragons remember. He pressed his palm against the center of the door. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the glyphs glowed faintly, as if responding to his heat. Daemon frowned. He did not have a knife in his hand. He had not offered blood. Yet the stone warmed under his touch. A seam appeared, thin as a hairline crack. The slab shifted with a low grind. Daenerys' breath caught. Viserys' eyes widened. The door opened into darkness deeper than the tunnels. A darkness that smelled of ash and old stone. Daemon stepped through first, dark sister drawn. Inside, the chamber was round and high, the ceiling lost in shadow. The walls were carved with dragons. Dozens of them, twisting and coiling, mouths open as if singing. In the center of the chamber, set into a shallow pit lined with smooth black stone, lay 10 shapes. At first Daenerys did not understand what she was seeing. They looked like rocks, like strange jewels, like sleeping creatures curled into themselves. Then the lantern light from the tunnel fell across them, and color emerged. A deep green marbled with bronze, a pale cream streaked with gold, a dark gray flecked with silver like stars, a rich blue so dark it was almost black, a red so deep it seemed to drink light. 10 eggs, each different, each beautiful and terrible in its stillness. Viserys made a sound that was half sob, half laugh. He stumbled forward, reaching with shaking hands. "Dragon eggs," he whispered. "Real." Daemon caught him by the shoulder, stopping him short. "Careful," Daemon said. Viserys jerked, offended. "They're ours," he snapped, but his voice trembled with awe. Daenerys stepped forward slowly, drawn as if by a thread. She knelt at the edge of the pit and stared at the eggs as if staring at sleeping children. "They're cold," she whispered. Daemon watched her. The way she looked at them was different than Viserys' hunger. Her gaze held longing, yes, but also recognition, as if something inside her had been waiting for this sight. "How?" Viserys demanded, turning on Daemon. "How did you?" Daemon's eyes flicked over the chamber, over the carvings, over the eggs. He did not tell them the full truth. That during the dance, when fire and blood had torn the realm apart, he had always kept contingencies. He had always kept something hidden. A man who played at crowns could not afford to be without backups. Or perhaps, Daemon's mind tightened. Perhaps someone else had hidden these here, long after his death, and the flames had led him to them. Perhaps the god the priests worshipped truly had a hand in this. Daemon did not like either possibility. He crouched by the pit and studied the eggs. They were old. The shells were hard, patterned like scales. Dust clung to them, but beneath the dust they gleamed faintly. "You will not touch them yet," Daemon said, voice firm. Viserys' face twisted. "You cannot." He began, and then the egg nearest Daenerys shifted. It was not a large movement. A tremor, perhaps, or a trick of lantern light. But Daenerys froze, eyes wide. Daemon's spine went rigid. Daenerys lifted a hand slowly, as if afraid the air might shatter. She did not touch the egg yet. She hovered her fingers a breath above it. The egg warmed. Daemon saw it in the way the lantern light changed, in the faint sheen of heat that rose from the shell. Daenerys's eyes filled with tears she did not seem to notice. "It's warm," she whispered, and her voice broke. Viserys lunged forward, reaching for another egg, hunger overtaking caution. "It recognizes me," he gasped. "It knows the dragon." Daemon snapped a hand out and slapped Viserys' fingers away. The sound echoed in the chamber. Viserys recoiled as if struck. "Do not," Daemon said, voice low and dangerous. "Not here. Not like this." Viserys' eyes blazed with hate and humiliation. "You think you can keep them from me?" he whispered. "You think you can be king over me?" Daemon stared at him. In the torchlight, the boy looked like a blade with no hilt, sharp, dangerous, and useless in the wrong hands. Daemon rose slowly. "I think," Daemon said, "that you will get yourself killed if you keep trying to take what you have not earned." Viserys' breathing slowed, anger shifting, confusion creeping in. "How do we make them hatch?" he whispered, almost against his will. Daemon stared into the fire. The Red Priest's words echoed in his mind. Blood opens, fire wakes. He did not like relying on faith, but he could not ignore that he himself had been woken by fire. "We will find those who know fire," Daemon said finally. "Those who worship it, who study it, who can coax life from stone." Daenerys leaned forward slightly. "The Red Priests," she said, remembering. "The Lord of Light." Daemon's jaw tightened at the name. He did not answer directly. "There are cities," he essayed, "ID, where their temples rise like towers. Volantis, Mir, Lys, places where magic is not whispered about in alleys but shouted in squares." Viserys wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, eyes narrowing. "And they will help us?" he demanded. "For gold? For oaths?" Daemon looked at him. "They will help us," Daemon said, "because dragons are power, and men always help themselves." Daenerys's gaze dropped to the egg in her lap. The shell glimmered in firelight. "It felt warm," she whispered, almost to herself. Daemon watched her. The warmth had not been illusion. He had felt it too, like a pulse in the air. The eggs were not dead. They were sleeping, waiting. He wondered what else was waiting in this world that had moved on without him. Above them, faintly, the sound of a horn drifted across the cliffs. The castle had discovered their escape route. Or at least it had discovered something. Daemon's hand tightened on Dark Sister's hilt. "We have been found," he said. Viserys went pale. Daenerys swallowed hard. Daemon looked down at the eggs, then back at the children. His mind moved fast. 10 eggs. Impossible to carry all at once on foot through tunnels. But Caraxes could carry weight, bags, bundles, anything secured. He made a decision in the way he always had, without hesitation and without gentleness. "We take them," Daemon said. Daenerys blinked. "All of them?" she whispered. Daemon's smile returned, fierce. "All of them," he said. Daemon moved like a man robbed of time and determined to steal it back. He tore strips from a hanging cloth in the corner, old, dusty, but strong enough, and began wrapping eggs with quick, practiced hands. Each one he lifted with care that looked almost like reverence until you saw the hardness in his eyes. This was not worship. This was acquisition. He bundled them 2 and 3 at a time, tying knots that would hold. Daenerys rose to help without being told. She took an egg, cream streaked with gold, and cradled it awkwardly, breath shallow as if she feared it might crack from her own heartbeat. The shell was warm against her palms, not hot, just alive enough to make her skin prickle. Viserys stood for a moment as if stunned by the reality of work. Then, seeing Daenerys hold an egg, something in him snapped back to greed. He grabbed at a dark green one, nearly dropping it. Daemon's hand shot out and steadied it. "Hold it like it matters," Daemon snarled. "It does matter," Viserys snapped back, but his voice shook. His fingers tightened, and for a heartbeat Daemon thought the boy might fling it simply to spite him. Daemon leaned close. "If you break one," he murmured, "I will break you." Viserys swallowed. His pride did not yield, but his fear did. Daemon slung 2 bundled eggs into a satchel he had taken from Viserys, the same satchel stuffed with Pentoshi trinkets. Those trinkets hit the stone floor with a clatter as Daemon dumped them out. Coins rolled. A small carved ivory horse skittered into the shadows. Viserys watched his treasure scatter and looked as if he might weep. Daemon ignored it. "Come," Daemon said. He led them back into the tunnel with their burdens. Daenerys carried 1 egg against her chest beneath her cloak. Viserys carried 2 in a bundle. Held tight like a child he did not know how to love. Daemon carried the rest, satchels cutting into his shoulders, the weight unfamiliar and yet satisfying. They moved quickly through the tunnels back the way they came. The mountain's rumble seemed louder now, or perhaps Daemon's senses were sharpened by urgency. The heat rose. Sweat prickled beneath his cloak. The shouts above grew clearer. Footsteps echoed. A lantern glow appeared around a bend ahead. Daemon stopped and pressed them against the wall, flattening them into shadow. He drew Dark Sister, the blade making no sound. 3 men rounded the bend, lantern held high. They wore Baratheon colors, dark cloaks, stag badges on their chests. Their faces were pale in lantern light, eyes narrowed. "Thought I heard something," one muttered, voice nervous. "Lord Stannis said no one goes near the Dragonmont without leave." "Probably rats," another said, but he did not sound convinced. His hand stayed close to his sword. The third man, younger, swallowed hard. "Rats don't leave footprints in ash," he whispered. Daemon waited until they were close enough to smell. Sweat, oil, fear. Then he stepped out. The first guard barely had time to widen his eyes before Dark Sister opened his throat. Blood sprayed hot, shocking in the tunnel's warmth. The man's lantern fell, rolling, casting light in wild arcs. The second guard drew his sword and lunged with a shout. Daemon parried easily, Valyrian steel sliding through common steel like water through cloth. He stepped inside the guard's swing and drove Dark Sister up under the man's ribs. The guard's mouth opened in a silent gasp. Daemon twisted the blade and pulled it free. The third guard tried to run. Daemon's hand shot out and caught him by the back of the cloak, yanking him back so hard he stumbled. Daemon slammed him into the wall. Stone thudded. The guard groaned, dazed. Daemon held Dark Sister to the man's cheek. "How many?" Daemon whispered. The guard blinked, eyes unfocused. "Lord Stannis," he stammered. "He saw something over the sea. He said a demon." Daemon pressed the blade closer, just enough to draw a thin line of blood. "How many?" he repeated. The guard's breath hitched. 10, he gasped. 20 maybe. They're searching. The castle's awake. Daemon studied him for a heartbeat. The guard's face was young, no older than Viserys perhaps. He was terrified and loyal and likely to die regardless of what Daemon did. If he lived, he would raise the alarm again. If he died, it would make no difference. The alarm was already rising. Daemon killed him quickly, cleanly, and wiped Dark Sister on the dead man's cloak. Daenerys stood rigid against the wall, eyes wide. Her face had gone pale, and her hands tightened around the egg beneath her cloak as if she could protect it from the sight of blood by gripping harder. Viserys stared at the bodies with a mixture of horror and something darker, an understanding that power was not words but steel and willingness. Daemon stepped over the corpses. "Move," he ordered. They ran. The tunnels twisted. Heat rose. Daemon's shoulders ached from the weight of the eggs, but he did not slow. The satchels bumped against his ribs with each stride. He could feel the eggs inside, heavy and precious. They reached a split in the tunnel where one passage sloped upward toward the castle and another angled down deeper into the mountain. Daemon paused only long enough to listen. Upward. More shouts. Closer. The sound of men moving in numbers. Downward. Silence and heat.
Daemon chose downward.
Viserys' eyes widened. "Where are you going?" he demanded, breathless. "We need to leave." "We will," Daemon said, "but not through them." He led them deeper. The tunnel narrowed until they had to turn sideways. The stone here was rougher, less carved, as if this passage had been an afterthought. The air grew hotter, thick with sulfur. Daenerys coughed once, then pressed her sleeve to her mouth. She kept moving. At last the passage opened into a cavern where steam rose in pale ghosts from pools of warm water. The ceiling dripped. The stone underfoot was slick. Daemon crossed to the far side and found another opening, low and hidden behind a curtain of mineral deposits. He pushed through. The new tunnel sloped sharply down, then curved. Daemon smelled salt again. A heartbeat later, they emerged into a small sea cave at the base of the cliffs, where waves rolled in and out with a hollow roar. Pale light filtered in through the cave mouth, turning the water silver. Daemon exhaled once, sharp with relief. "This way," he said. They waded through shallow water, boots splashing. Viserys cursed as cold sea seeped into his shoes. Daenerys bit her lip and said nothing. Outside the cave mouth, the black sand beach stretched, empty, except for Caraxes crouched where Daemon had left him, wings tucked, tail coiled. The dragon lifted his head the moment Daemon appeared, nostrils flaring. Smoke curled out, tinged faintly red. Daemon felt the bond pulse, impatient. Caraxes wanted to fly. Caraxes wanted to burn. Caraxes wanted to claim. Daemon hurried toward him, satchels heavy. He began tying the egg bundles to Caraxes' saddleless ridges using the cloth and belts he had. Caraxes rumbled, displeased at being treated like a pack mule. "Endure?" Daemon murmured in Valyrian, pressing a hand to the dragon's warm scales. "You carry our future." Daenerys stood close, one hand resting briefly against Caraxes' leg as if drawing strength. Caraxes' eye slid toward her, considering. The dragon's mind brushed Daemon's with a flicker of something like curiosity. Viserys watched, breath steaming. "We should burn them," he said suddenly, voice trembling with anger. "Burn the castle. Burn the usurpers. Take Dragonstone back." Daemon turned slowly. His eyes were cold. "Not yet," he said. Viserys' face twisted. "Why not?" he demanded. "With a dragon, we can." "With one dragon," Daemon cut in, "you can win a battle. You cannot hold a kingdom. And if you burn this island, you will make every lord in Westeros your enemy before you even set foot on their shore." Viserys' hands clenched. "They are already our enemies," he spat. Daemon watched him, seeing the boy's hunger for spectacle, for immediate domination. He saw how easily Viserys could become reckless with a dragon at his back. The thought was more dangerous than any Baratheon spear. "We will take what we need first," Daemon said. "Then we will choose how to use it." Viserys glared, but he had no argument that did not sound like tantrum. Daenerys spoke quietly, surprising them both. "Where will we go?" she asked. Daemon looked at her. The egg beneath her cloak warmed the air around her chest. Her eyes were steady now, fear pushed aside by purpose. "East," Daemon said, "to the cities where fire is worshipped, where men understand dragons even if they have never seen one. We will wake these eggs. We will build strength." "And then?" Daenerys asked. Daemon's mouth curved. "Then we return," he said. Above them, faintly, the sound of a horn drifted across the cliffs. The castle had discovered their escape route, or at least it had discovered something. Daemon swung up onto Caraxes' neck, then reached down for Daenerys. She climbed quickly, settling behind him again. Viserys climbed last, muttering curses, gripping the egg bundle and then Daenerys' shoulders. Caraxes unfurled his wings, sand whipping up. As they lifted, Daemon glanced back toward Dragonstone's jagged towers. On the battlements, tiny figures gathered, pointing. A few arrows flew, falling short, harmless. Daemon smiled. Let them stare, he thought. Let them remember what it feels like to be small. Caraxes rose over the cliffs, taking them out over open sea. Wind hit them hard. The egg bundles tied to Caraxes' ridges bumped and shifted, but held. Daemon guided the dragon low at first, skimming over waves to avoid being seen from the castle too long. Then he climbed into cloud and fog and vanished. Behind them, Dragonstone grew small. Ahead, the world waited. They flew west only long enough to be sure no ships followed. Then Daemon turned Caraxes south and east, back toward the open sea where no lord's eyes could measure them. The sky cleared as the day aged. Clouds broke into ragged islands. Sunlight spilled onto the waves in cold, bright shards. Salt crusted on Daemon's lips. His cloak snapped behind him like a banner. Daenerys rode in silence, pressed close, her hands firm now, not trembling. She had stopped screaming at each drop and rise. She watched the sea and the sky with the stare of someone memorizing freedom. Viserys rode rigid, jaw clenched, eyes fixed on the horizon, as if he could force the world to become his by staring hard enough. Now and then his hands would shift, as if checking the egg bundle still tied to Caraxes, as if afraid Daemon might steal it from him even now. Daemon felt the boy's resentment like a heat behind him. It did not bother him. Resentment was predictable. Pride was manageable. What worried him was how quickly Viserys' pride sought shortcuts. A dragon, Daemon thought, and the boy will believe himself a god before he learns how easily gods bleed. Caraxes' mind surged and dipped with the air currents. Restless. The dragon wanted to hunt, wanted to taste. The sea offered only fish, and fish were not enough for a creature born for war. Daemon felt Caraxes' hunger bleed into him, stirring his own stomach. He realized with sudden clarity that he had not eaten since waking in mud. His body, however remade, still demanded fuel. Near sunset they found a rocky islet, little more than a hump of stone that broke the sea. Caraxes landed with a thud, claws scraping. Daemon slid down, legs stiff. He helped Daenerys down and then Viserys. They stood in the wind, hair whipping, cloak snapping. The air smelled of salt and bird droppings. A cluster of seabirds shrieked and wheeled overhead, offended. Daemon untied one egg bundle and set it carefully in a sheltered dip between rocks, away from spray. He laid them like treasure, like ammunition, like children. Daenerys hovered close, protective. Viserys hovered too, his protectiveness of a different kind, possessive, sharp. Daemon looked at the children and realized how thin they were. Daenerys' cheeks were hollow under her skin. Viserys' wrists looked too delicate for the titles he tried to wear. Illyrio had kept them alive, yes, but alive like caged animals. Fed enough not to die, not enough to thrive. Daemon's mouth tightened. He drew Dark Sister and walked toward the edge of the islet where the water foamed. Caraxes prowled nearby, tail swaying, eye on the distant horizon, alert to anything that might challenge. Daemon looked down into the water and saw fish flickering like silver knives beneath the surface. He had no net. He had no hook. He had a Valyrian steel sword and a dragon. He stepped back and called softly in Valyrian. Caraxes turned his head, listening. Daemon pointed at the water. Caraxes' throat swelled. The dragon exhaled, not a full blast of flame, but a jet of heat that turned the sea surface to steam in a sudden white bloom. Fish floated up, stunned or dead. Daenerys gasped. Viserys stared as if seeing real power for the first time. Daemon waded in, boots soaking, and scooped up fish with his hands. He piled them on rock. Some were still twitching. He built a small fire in a sheltered nook using driftwood and bits of dried seaweed. Daenerys watched him, curious. Viserys sat on a rock with his bundle of eggs beside him, arms wrapped around his knees, glaring at the sea as if it had offended him. Daemon skewered fish on thin sticks and held them over flame. The smell was sharp and clean. His mouth watered. Daenerys edged closer, hugging her cloak. "I've never eaten fish like this," she said quietly. Daemon glanced at her. "You've never eaten fish at all?" he asked, surprised. Daenerys' eyes dropped. "Sometimes," she said, "when Viserys could afford it." Viserys snapped his head up. "Do not speak of me like I am not here," he hissed. Daenerys flinched, then steadied. "You are here," she said softly, and there was no apology in it. Daemon watched them, the old pattern, brother sharp, sister absorbing, both shaped by scarcity. He felt a pulse of something like anger, not at Viserys, not at Daenerys, but at the fact that dragon blood had been reduced to this. Begging, scraping, being sold. He handed Daenerys a cooked fish first. She took it with both hands, fingers careful, and bit into it. Grease shone on her lips. For a moment she looked younger, simply hungry. Daemon handed Viserys a fish next. Viserys took it stiffly, pride fighting hunger. He ate anyway. They sat in silence for a while, the sea roaring, the sky turning purple and gold. Caraxes curled around the islet's highest point like a living wall, wings partly unfurled, watching. At last Viserys spoke, voice low. "If you are truly Daemon," he said, "then you were a prince. You fought for the throne. You know what is owed to us." Daemon chewed slowly, eyes on the darkening sea. "I know what is taken," he said. Viserys' hands tightened around his fish. "Then take it," he insisted. "Take Dragonstone. Take the 7 kingdoms. Burn the usurpers and sit me on my throne." Daemon turned his head. The firelight carved his face into harsh planes. "Sit you," he repeated, and his tone made the words sound like something dirty. Viserys bristled. "I am the rightful king," he snapped. "I am the heir. You are my subject." Daemon's laugh was quiet. "Subject," he said, tasting it. "You speak like a man who has never had to obey." Viserys' face flushed. "I have obeyed," he snarled. "I have obeyed hunger. I have obeyed insult. I have obeyed my sister's weakness." Daemon moved so fast Daenerys did not even have time to draw breath. His hand shot out and seized Viserys by the throat, slamming him back against the rock. The fish fell into sand. Viserys' eyes bulged. His NDS clawed at Daemon's wrist. Daemon leaned close, voice low and deadly. "Do not speak of her," Daemon said. "As if she is the reason you suffer." Viserys choked, trying to speak. Daemon tightened just enough to remind him how fragile he was. Daenerys froze, fish forgotten in her hands. Her eyes were wide, but there was no scream, no pleading. She watched, assessing. Daemon held Viserys there for a long heartbeat, then released him. Viserys slid down the rock, coughing, eyes watering with rage and humiliation. Daemon straightened. "Listen," he said, and his voice carried the weight of command. "You want a throne. You want kneeling. You want crowns and songs. But you have no power except what you can hold in your hands. Right now, you hold nothing." Viserys coughed, glaring up. "I hold dragon eggs," he rasped. Daemon looked down at him. "You hold stone," Daemon said. "If we fail, they remain stone. If we succeed, they become dragons. And dragons do not obey titles. They obey strength. They obey bond. They obey fire." Viserys' breathing slowed, anger shifting, confusion creeping in. "How do we make them hatch?" he whispered, almost against his will. Daemon stared into the fire. The Red Priest's words echoed in his mind. "Blood opens, fire wakes." He did not like relying on faith, but he could not ignore that he himself had been woken by fire. "We will find those who know fire," Daemon said finally. "Those who worship it, who study it, who can coax life from stone." Daenerys leaned forward slightly. "The Red Priests," she said, remembering. "The Lord of Light." Daemon's jaw tightened at the name. He did not answer directly. "There are cities," he said, "where their temples rise like towers. Volantis, Mir, Lys, places where magic is not whispered about in alleys but shouted in squares." Viserys wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, eyes narrowing. "And they will help us?" he demanded. "For gold? For oaths?" Daemon looked at him. "They will help us," Daemon said, "because dragons are power, and men always help themselves." Daenerys' gaze dropped to the egg in her lap. The shell glimmered in firelight. "It felt warm," she whispered, almost to herself. Daemon watched her. The warmth had not been illusion. He had felt it too, like a pulse in the air. The eggs were not dead. They were sleeping, waiting. He wondered what else was waiting in this world that had moved on without him. Above them, the sky deepened. Stars pricked through. Somewhere far off, a ship's lantern bobbed on the horizon, tiny and lonely. Daemon stared out at the dark water and felt the old hunger rise. Hunger for control, for vengeance, for the sheer thrill of bending the world. He also felt something else, faint and unfamiliar. A weight of responsibility, heavy as the egg bundles. He did not like that either, but he would carry it, if only because he refused to let the last of his line be sold like cattle. He stood. "Rest," he told them. "We fly at first light." Daenerys nodded, curling her cloak around herself. Viserys lay back on the rock stiffly, eyes open, refusing to sleep as if sleep were weakness. Daemon took first watch, dark sister across his knees, eyes on the horizon, mind on the flames and what they had shown him. In the dark, Caraxes' low breathing rumbled like distant thunder, and the eggs in their bundles seemed, for a heartbeat, to hum. They did not stay on the islet long enough for comfort to become a habit. At dawn the wind sharpened, and the sea grew rougher. Daemon woke the children with a curt touch and a word. Daenerys rose quickly, rubbing sleep from her eyes, clutching her egg as if afraid it might be stolen by the morning. Viserys rose slower, stiff with resentment, but he rose. Caraxes took off with the islet falling away behind them like a discarded thought. They flew east and south, following shipping lanes at a distance. Daemon avoided ships, wary of anyone who might recognize a dragon even if they had never seen one. Stories traveled. Fear traveled faster. By midday they spotted a larger island ahead, one with a small fishing village and a crude dock. Smoke rose from chimneys. Boats bobbed. Men moved like ants. Daemon considered landing to steal supplies, rope, cloth, perhaps a boat of their own for times when a dragon was too visible. But as they circled, he saw something that made his skin prickle. A small red banner fluttering near the village's central building. Not a lord's banner. A cloth dyed in the deep crimson of fresh blood, bearing a simple symbol stitched in black. A heart-shaped flame. Temple, or at least a shrine. Daemon banked Caraxes away and kept circling, higher. He watched. A group of villagers gathered near the shrine. A man in red stood among them, arms raised, speaking. His robe was worn, patched. His hair was black and slicked back. He held a brazier in his hands, flame dancing even in the wind, and the villagers stared at it with hungry devotion. Daemon felt the hairs on his arms rise. The older priest at the gods I had said they were sent, that the flames demanded. If red priests were here on this small island, then the faith had spread further than Daemon had ever imagined. More unsettling. As the red priest raised the brazier, Daemon saw him pause, head tilting as if hearing something. The priest's gaze lifted, scanning the sky. Daemon pulled his hood up instinctively, though he knew it was useless from this height. The priest's eyes widened. He pointed upward. Villagers followed his gaze. Hands lifted. Shouts rose. Daemon cursed under his breath. Caraxes screamed, annoyed at being restrained, and beat his wings harder, climbing into cloud. Daemon forced calm into the bond, then drove the dragon forward, away from the island. Behind them, the red priest's voice carried faintly, a chant that sounded like a warning and a welcome together. Daemon's mind tightened. The faith was watching. The faith was looking for him. Perhaps the faith had always been looking. He did not want allies who believed they owned him. Yet he needed knowledge. He needed fire. By evening, they reached the coast of a larger landmass. One of the free city's outlying territories, rocky and harsh. Daemon chose a deserted stretch where cliffs formed caves. They landed and made a brief camp, eating dried fish and water collected from a spring. Daenerys slept curled against a rock, egg tucked close. Viserys pretended not to sleep, eyes open in stubbornness until exhaustion took him anyway. Daemon watched the sea, thinking. The world had changed, not just in who sat a chair of swords, but in something deeper. Magic had returned to pull him from death. Red priests appeared on small islands where they had no business being. Dragon eggs warmed at the touch of a child who had never seen a dragon. And somewhere in the north, Daemon did not know how he knew it, but he felt it like a cold ache, something weighted in ice. He slept little, The next morning he made a decision and did not announce it until they were in the air. "We go to Volantis," Daemon said over the wind. Viserys blinked awake behind him. "Volantis?" he repeated, suspicious. "Why?" "Because it is old," Daemon said. "Because it remembers Valyria. Because it worships fire openly. Because if anyone can tell us how to wake eggs, it is the priests and magisters there." Viserys' hands tightened around Daenerys' shoulders. "And if they refuse?" he demanded. Daemon's smile was thin, though Viserys could not see it. "Then we make them regret refusing," Daemon said. Daenerys lifted her head slightly. "Will they hurt us?" she asked quietly, and Daemon heard the question beneath the question. Not just fear of strangers, but fear of being owned again. Daemon's voice softened by a fraction. "Not kindness, but something like a promise." "No one will sell you," he said. "Not while I breathe." Daenerys was silent for a long time. Then, very softly, she said, "You were dead." Daemon's grip tightened on Caraxes' neck ridge. "So were you," he said before he could stop himself. "Meaning her house, her name, her future." Daenerys did not answer, but her arms tightened around him, and Daemon felt the weight of it. They flew for hours, the sea unspooling beneath. Ships passed far below, tiny. Storm clouds gathered and broke. Sunlight returned. The world turned in slow, vast circles. Near dusk, a smudge appeared on the horizon. Land, broad and flat. Rivers glinted like veins. Smoke rose in distant lines. As they approached, Daemon began to see walls. Huge, ancient, black stone walls that stretched along a river like a scar. Towers rose. Bridges arched. Beyond, the city sprawled, vast and crowded. Its buildings piled together like stones in a giant's fist. Volantis. Daemon circled high, heart beating faster. This was not a small Essos port like Pentos. This was a beast of a city, old and proud, built on the bones of empires. And on one side of it, rising above rooftops, stood a temple whose red roof gleamed in the last light like a wound. Daemon felt Caraxes' hunger spike. The dragon sensed the city's life, its countless warm bodies, its fear. Daemon guided Caraxes down toward a stretch of marshy land outside the walls where they could land unseen, behind reeds and muddy banks. As they descended, Daemon saw movement on the city's riverfront. Crowds gathering, pointing at the sky. Horns sounded. Boats shifted. Soldiers ran along the walls, their armor flashing. But it was not the soldiers that drew Daemon's attention. On a balcony of the Red Temple, a figure in crimson stood still, face turned upward. Even from this distance, Daemon could feel the intensity of that gaze as if it were a hand on his throat. The figure raised both arms wide, as if embracing the sky. Daemon's skin prickled. The Lord of Light's people were waiting. They landed in reeds that whispered like spies. The marsh outside Volantis was thick with insects and the smell of rot, but it offered cover. Caraxes crouched low, wings folded, the great red bulk half hidden by tall reeds and mist. Steam rose off him in pale ribbons. His eye watched the distant city with hungry focus. Daemon slid down and untied the egg bundles carefully, placing them on a patch of drier ground under a half-collapsed fisherman's shelter. He laid them like treasure, like ammunition, like children. Daenerys climbed down and immediately knelt beside the eggs, checking each bundle as if counting would make them safe. Viserys followed and stood over her, possessive, as if the eggs might choose her if he did not watch. Daemon looked past them toward Volantis. The city's noise reached them faintly. Horns, shouting, the deep murmur of crowds. Smoke from countless cookfires drifted over the walls. The Red Temple's roof glowed even in fading light, and the thought of the crimson-robed figure on its balcony stuck in Daemon's mind like a thorn. He did not like being expected. "We do not go into the city like beggars," Viserys said, straightening, voice regaining some of its royal edge now that his feet were on land. "We go as dragons. We demand." Daemon cut him off with a look. "We go as shadows first," he said. "Then we decide who deserves to see a dragon." Viserys' mouth tightened. "You are afraid," he accused, and it was an ugly word from someone who had spent his life running. Daemon stepped close. "I am careful," Daemon said. "There is a difference." Viserys held Daemon's gaze for a moment, trying to win, and lost. He looked away with a sharp exhale. Daenerys rose, egg in her hands. She looked toward the city, eyes narrowed. "They saw us," she said. Daemon nodded. "They did," he agreed. He considered their next move. If the Red Priests truly wanted him, they would come. They would send emissaries. They would send zealots. They might send assassins. Faith could make men brave and stupid at the same time. Daemon did not want a crowd around the eggs. He did not want anyone touching them. He did not want anyone telling him what he was meant to be. Yet he needed answers. He turned to Daenerys. "Stay close," he said, and his voice softened again by a fraction. "If anyone approaches, you do not speak unless I tell you. You watch. You remember." Daenerys nodded. Viserys scoffed quietly, but said nothing. Daemon walked to the edge of the reeds and peered toward the city's outer road. The marsh thinned into muddy flats, then into a rough track used by fishermen and smugglers. He waited. He did not have to wait long. A shape moved along the track, a single figure at first, then several behind. Lantern light bobbed. Voices carried, chanting softly in a language that pricked Daemon's memory. High Valyrian, warped by time and foreign tongues. They came closer. Daemon's hand went to Dark Sister. The first figure emerged from the mist, a woman in a crimson robe, hood down. She was tall, her skin a deep brown, her hair braided tight against her scalp. Her eyes caught lantern light and seemed to glow, not with madness but with fierce certainty. Behind her walked 6 men in red, faces solemn, hands empty but for small braziers that smoked. They moved like a procession, not a hunting party. The woman stopped at the edge of the marsh, just far enough that mud would not swallow her boots. She looked directly at Daemon as if she could see through reeds and darkness. "Daemon Targaryen," she called, voice carrying clear across the damp air. Viserys stiffened. Daenerys' fingers tightened on her egg. Daemon stepped out of the reeds, hood down, silver hair catching lantern light. He stood with Dark Sister at his hip, cloak damp, boots muddy. Caraxes' red bulk loomed behind, half hidden but present, a silent threat. The woman's gaze flicked briefly to the dragon, then back to Daemon's face. Her lips curved into something like a smile. "The fire did not lie," she said. Daemon did not return the smile. "Who are you?" he asked. She bowed her head slightly, not submission, but acknowledgement. "I am Nyessa," she said, "servant of R'hllor, flame reader of the Red Temple." Daemon felt the name settle, unknown, but carried with authority. Nyessa lifted her hands, palms open. "We mean no harm," she said. "We have waited. The Lord of Light showed us a prince drowned and reborn, a dragon raised from black water, and the last blood of Valyria gathered beneath fire. We have waited for you to come." Daemon's mouth tightened. "I did not come for you," he said. "I came for what you know." Nyessa's eyes gleamed. "We know fire," she said simply. "We know sacrifice. We know the old tongues. We know how to wake stone and make it sing." Viserys stepped forward, unable to contain himself. "Then you will," he said, voice arrogant. "You will wake our eggs. You will serve House Targaryen and the rightful king." Daemon's hand shot out and caught Viserys by the arm, yanking him back. Viserys hissed in pain and fury. Nyessa's gaze slid to Viserys, assessing. "This one is bitter," she said softly, as if commenting on wine. "Bitter and hungry." Viserys flushed. "I am the dragon," he snapped. Nyessa looked at him with calm pity. "Dragons do not say what they are," she replied. "They show it." Daenerys stepped out of the reeds then, egg held close. She did not go far, only enough that Nyessa could see her face. Nyessa's eyes widened slightly, something like reverence crossing her features. "And you," Nyessa murmured, "you are the fire's daughter." Daenerys' breath caught. "I am Daenerys," she said quietly, and there was more strength in the name than Daemon had heard in Pentos. Nyessa bowed her head to her, deeper than she had bowed to Daemon. "Daenerys Targaryen," she said, "the flames have sung of you." Daemon watched the exchange with a growing, cold unease. He did not like how quickly the priestess's attention shifted to Daenerys, how naturally she offered her devotion to the girl. He also did not like how Daenerys's face changed at being seen. Not flattered, wary, but something in her straightened, as if recognition fed her. Nyessa turned back to Daemon. "Come," she said. "The Red Temple will shelter you. The city will roar and panic, but behind our walls you will be safe. And there," her eyes flicked to the egg bundles. "There we can begin." Daemon did not move. "Safe," he repeated, and the word sounded like a lie in his mouth. Nyessa met his gaze steadily. "You do not trust us," she said. Daemon smiled slightly. "I do not trust anyone," he said. "It has kept me alive." Nyessa's smile returned, faint and knowing. "It did not keep you alive," she said softly. "Fire did." Daemon's hand tightened on Dark Sister's hilt. For a moment, the marsh seemed to hold its breath. Then Caraxes shifted behind them, a low rumble rolling through the reeds. The dragon's head lifted. I fixed on Nyessa. Smoke curled from his nostrils, red-tinged in the twilight. Nyessa did not flinch. She lifted her chin slightly, as if greeting a king. "Caraxes," she said, speaking the name with care, as if it were a prayer. "Blood of Valyria, flame made flesh." Daemon's skin prickled. "How do you know his name?" he demanded. Nyessa's gaze did not waver. "The flames told us," she said. "They tell us many things." Daemon stared at her, feeling the old rage rise. Rage at being watched, at being predicted, at being placed on a path by hands unseen. He forced it down. Rage could be used later. Now he needed information. "What is the price?" Daemon asked bluntly. Nyessa's eyes softened, almost tender. "Everything has a price," she said, "but not all prices are coin. We ask for one thing, that when the night comes, you do not turn your fire away." Daemon's jaw tightened. "And if I refuse?" Nyessa's smile faded. "Then the world burns colder," she said simply. "And even dragons will freeze." Daemon glanced at Daenerys, then at Viserys. He saw fear in Viserys' eyes, masked by pride. He saw fascination in Daenerys's, restrained by caution. He saw the egg bundles, 10 sleeping futures. Daemon weighed his hatred of being claimed against his need for knowledge. He made his choice. "We will come," Daemon said, "but understand this. I kneel to no god. I kneel to no priestess. If you try to bind me, if you try to take these eggs." Nyessa lifted a hand gently. "We do not bind fire," she said. "We only feed it." Daemon did not like that answer either, but he nodded once, sharp. Nyessa turned and gestured. Her men stepped forward carefully, keeping distance from Caraxes. They held their braziers low, flames protected from wind. Their faces were solemn, eyes shining with devotion and fear. Daemon lifted the egg bundles himself. He did not allow the priests to touch them. Daenerys carried her egg. Viserys carried his bundle with stiff pride. They followed Nyessa along the muddy track toward Volantis. Behind them, Caraxes rose and padded after, wings tucked, the dragon moving with surprising quiet for his size. The reeds bent and hissed as he passed, and the marsh seemed to shrink away from him. As the city grew closer, the noise grew louder. Daemon could see people gathering on the walls, pointing. He could see soldiers with spears, tents. He could see the river boats shifting, oars dipping nervously. But when the procession reached the gates nearest the Red Temple, the guards did not block them. They watched, pale and sweating, and stepped aside as if the red robes were a shield no one dared strike. Daemon entered Volantis not as a beggar, not as a conqueror, but as a question the city did not know how to answer. And above, on the temple's balcony, more red-robed figures gathered, watching. Their faces were eager, hungry. Their voices rose in chant, low and growing. Daemon did not understand the words, but he understood the feeling. A crowd waiting for a miracle to become a weapon. Inside the Red Temple, the air was hotter than the sunlit streets outside. The stone corridors were wide and dim, lit by braziers that burned with steady, unnatural flame. Shadows danced on carved walls. Dragons, swords, suns. 1,000 twisting images that made Daemon's eyes ache if he stared too long. The scent of incense clung to everything, thick and sweet, trying to cover the sharper smell beneath. Blood. They were led through halls where red-robed acolytes moved like silent fish, heads bowed, hands clasped. Some glanced up as Daemon passed, and their eyes widened, then dropped again as if afraid of being caught looking at a holy thing too directly. Daemon hated it. Daenerys held close at his side, her egg tucked beneath her cloak. Viserys walked on the other side, chin lifted, trying to pretend the stairs were homage rather than curiosity. His pride was a fragile shield, and Daemon could almost hear it cracking. Nyessa led them deeper, past a set of heavy doors carved with flames. Beyond lay a vast chamber that opened upward into darkness. The ceiling was lost in shadow, but Daemon could sense the space. The way sound echoed. In the center of the chamber stood a circular pit lined with black stone, similar to the one under Dragonstone, but larger and marked with red-painted glyphs. "Here," Nyessa said, gesturing. Daemon did not move at once. He scanned the chamber, noting exits, noting the number of priests. There were more here, dozens perhaps, arranged along the walls like a watching court. Their faces were intent. Some smiled, some wept quietly. At the far end of the chamber stood a statue made of dark stone, taller than a man, shaped like a figure holding a sword high. The sword's blade was a channel where flame ran, casting red light over the statue's stern face. Daemon's skin prickled again, that same sense of being in a place where something watched. Nyessa stepped closer, voice lowered. "This is where we wake them," she said. "This is where the fire listens." Daemon set the egg bundles down carefully near the pit. He untied them one by one, laying the eggs out on the black stone like gems. Daenerys knelt and placed her cream and gold egg among them. Her fingers lingered a moment, gentle. When she pulled her hand away, the egg seemed to hold warmth. Viserys placed his bundle down with less care, almost throwing it, then caught himself and lowered it awkwardly. He reached for an egg, dark green marbled with bronze, and held it up as if presenting it. "Behold," he said to the watching priests, voice loud, "the return of dragons, the return of House Targaryen." Some priests murmured, some bowed their heads. Daemon watched Viserys, seeing how the boy fed on attention. It was a dangerous hunger in this place. A temple was not a court, but priests could be as deadly as lords. Nyessa raised a hand, and the murmuring quieted. "We will begin at dawn," she said. "Tonight you will rest. You will eat. You will let your bodies recover from travel. Tomorrow the fire will test you." Viserys bristled. "Test?" he repeated. "I am the..." Nyessa's gaze cut to him, and something in it silenced him. "The fire does not care what you call yourself," she said softly. "It cares what you are willing to burn." Daenerys looked up. "Burn?" she whispered. Nyessa's expression softened, almost kind. "Not you," she said. "Not unless you choose. But fire is a door, child. It opens with sacrifice. Always." Daemon's jaw tightened. There it was. The price. He stepped closer to Nyessa. "We will not sacrifice the girl," he said, voice low. Nyessa met his gaze steadily. "No one asked for her," she said. "Not from me." Daemon did not like the implication that someone else might. Nyessa gestured to a side door. "Your chambers," she said. "Private. Guarded. No one will disturb you." Daemon hesitated, then nodded once. He gathered the eggs into satchels again. He did not trust leaving them in the pit overnight, and slung them over his shoulders. The priests watched, some with disappointment, but none protested. Nyessa only smiled faintly, as if approving his possessiveness. They were led to chambers carved into the temple's side, stone rooms warmed by heat that rose from below. A meal waited: bread, olives, cheese, roasted lamb, wine. The smell made Viserys' eyes widen. Daenerys stared as if afraid the food might vanish. Daemon ate quickly, not savoring. He drank water more than wine. He kept one ear on the corridor outside, listening for footsteps. When Daenerys ate, she did so neatly, but with hunger that spoke of years of scarcity. Viserys ate like a man trying to pretend he was not hungry, then forgot the pretense. After they ate, Daenerys sat with her egg in her lap, fingers tracing the shell's ridges. She looked up at Daemon across the candlelight. "Why did you come back?" she asked suddenly. Daemon paused, cup halfway to his mouth. Daenerys' eyes held steady. "If you were dead," she said, "and you came back, why? For us? For the throne? For the dragon?" Viserys scoffed. "For duty," he said loudly. "For House Targaryen. For the rightful." Daemon's gaze cut to him. Viserys fell silent, swallowing. Daemon looked back at Daenerys. The question was dangerous. It demanded honesty, and Daemon had never made a habit of giving that away. He set his cup down. "I came back because someone pulled me," he said, and the words tasted strange. "Because the world would not let me stay gone." Daenerys frowned slightly. "The Red Priests." Daemon's mouth tightened. "Maybe," he said. "Maybe not." Daenerys hugged the egg closer. "Do you hear it?" she whispered. Daemon stilled. "Hear what?" Daenerys' eyes darted toward the egg bundles beside Daemon's bed. "Sometimes," she said softly, "when it is quiet, it feels like something is inside, like it is listening." Daemon held still. In the silence of the warm stone chamber, he listened too. At first, he heard only the temple's distant hum, cha. NTS far away, footsteps, the crackle of braziers. Then, beneath it, a faint vibration. Not sound exactly, a pulse. Daemon's skin prickled. He looked at the eggs. They sat in their bundles like sleeping hearts. Viserys shifted, uneasy. "They are stone," he muttered, but his voice lacked conviction. Daemon stood and crossed to the bundles. He knelt and placed his palm on the nearest egg, a dark gray flecked with silver. Warm. He drew his hand back quickly, as if burned. Nyessa's words echoed. "The fire listens." Daemon's jaw tightened. He did not like being in a temple full of people who believed they could interpret his existence. He did not like that the eggs responded here under their roof, as if the place itself were an ingredient. He also could not deny what his hand had felt. "Tomorrow," Daemon said, voice rough, "we see what they know." Viserys straightened. "We will hatch them," he said with fierce certainty, as if saying it would make it true. "We will have dragons. We will take Westeros back." Daemon looked at him, seeing the boy's hunger turning into a dream that could become obsession. Then he looked at Daenerys, who sat quietly with her egg, eyes distant, as if already listening to a future no one else could hear. Daemon felt the coal in his chest burn hotter. Outside, the temple's chanting grew louder, as if the entire building breathed in anticipation. Somewhere deep in Volantis, a crowd gathered, whispering of a dragon in the sky, of omens and fire. The city would not sleep tonight. Cities rarely slept when gods visited. Daemon lay down with Dark Sister within reach and the eggs bundled close. He did not close his eyes for a long time. When he finally did, the darkness behind his eyelids was not empty. It flickered with red flame, and in the flame he saw a wall of ice again, tall and endless, and shadows moving beyond it. He woke with his heart pounding and his hand on his sword. Daenerys slept, curled around her egg like a mother around a child. Viserys slept fitfully, lips moving as if speaking to a crown only he could see. Daemon stared into the dim and listened to the temple's heartbeat. Tomorrow the fire would test them, and Daemon Targaryen, who had drowned and risen, did not intend to fail. Dawn did not arrive in Volantis as it did in Westeros, gentle and gray over wet fields. Here it came red. The light that slid through the narrow window of their chamber was filtered by temple glass stained the color of fresh blood, and it painted Daemon's skin in cruel hues as he stood over the egg bundles, counting them for the third time as if numbers could ward against theft. 10. All present, all silent. And yet the chamber's air felt alive, thick with a warmth that did not belong to braziers alone. Daenerys sat on the bed with her egg in her lap, forearms wrapped around it the way a woman wraps herself around hope. Her eyes were open, watching the shell's subtle ridges as if she might read words there. Viserys did not sit. He had not slept. Daemon had heard him pacing in the dark, muttering titles to himself like prayers. Now, in the red dawn, the boy's pride looked raw, scraped. He glared at the eggs, at Daenerys holding one, at Daemon's sword, at the stone walls as though each had conspired to make him small. The door opened without a knock. Nyessa entered with 4 acolytes behind her. They moved in practiced silence, carrying shallow bowls of oil that shimmered gold, folded cloth, and a small iron brazier whose flame burned steady despite the motion. Nyessa's gaze swept the room once, quick and assessing, then settled on Daemon. "Prince Daemon Targaryen," she said softly, as if speaking too loud might bruise the morning. "The temple wakes. The city already gathers. They have heard that the sky screamed." Daemon's mouth tightened. "They have eyes," he said, "and mouths. That is always trouble." Nyessa did not argue. She inclined her head toward the acolytes. "They will dress you for the rite," she said. "You must be seen." Viserys stepped forward at once, greed for spectacle igniting. "Yes," he said sharply. "I will be seen. Let them see their king." Nyessa's gaze slid to him, cool. "They will see what the fire shows them," she answered, and the words held no comfort. Daemon's hand came down on the egg bundle nearest him, possessive. "No one touches them," he said. Nyessa's smile was slight, not mocking. "Then you will carry them," she replied, "as you have carried all else." Daemon stared at her, and for a heartbeat the old instinct rose. Kill the priestess, take what you need, leave ash behind. But he did not know enough yet. He forced the instinct down and nodded once. The acolytes offered him a cloak, black wool edged in dark red thread, heavy and fine. Daemon took it and draped it over his shoulders himself, rejecting their hands. He let them pour oil into his palms only because refusing would have been childish, and because the oil smelled of spices and smoke that reminded him of Dragonstone caves. Daenerys allowed Nyessa to fasten a clasp at her throat, a simple bronze circle shaped like a flame. The metal looked too heavy against her slight collarbone, yet she did not flinch. Viserys, eager to be adorned, stood still while 2 acolytes adjusted his tunic and belted it with red leather. He looked pleased until Nyessa handed him no crown, no jeweled chain, only a plain strip of black cloth to tie around his wrist. "A sign of humility," Nyessa said when Viserys opened his mouth to protest. "Fire respects those who bow before it." Viserys' face darkened. He tied the cloth anyway, fingers shaking with anger. When they were ready, Daemon lifted the satchels and slung them over his shoulders. The eggs knocked softly against one another, a dull music. He met Nyessa's eyes. "If the city touches them," he said, "I will burn your temple." Nyessa's gaze did not waver. "Then we will keep the city's hands away," she said, and the certainty in her voice was not bravado but faith sharpened into a weapon. They stepped into the corridor. The temple around them breathed, distant chanting, the low drum of feet, the flicker of braziers in alcoves. As they walked, Daemon caught sight of other red priests emerging from side passages, converging like blood toward a heart. Some saw him and bowed. Some wept. None looked away. Daemon's skin crawled at the devotion. He had been adored before. He had never trusted it. Adoration turned easily into hunger. Ahead, the corridor widened, and the sound of a crowd poured in like surf. Volantis was awake. The hall they had seen the night before had changed. Where it had been a cavern of watchers then, it was a living machine now. Priests moving with purpose, acolytes sweeping ash into patterns, men carrying braziers as if bearing pieces of the sun. The circular pit at the hall's center had been scrubbed and repainted, the red glyphs fresh and wet-looking. The air was thicker, heavy with incense and heat, and something else that made Daemon's throat tighten. Anticipation. At the far end stood the statue of the sword-bearer, flame running along the channel of its blade. Beneath it, a man waited. He was larger than Nyessa, broad through the shoulders, his robe cut to sit like a mantle of authority. His hair had gone gray in careful streaks, his beard trimmed close. His eyes burned in the torchlight not from reflection but from intensity, as if the man had spent his life staring into flame until flame stared back. Benero, Daemon thought, the name arriving in his mind as if he had always known it. High Priest, the voice of this city's fire. Benero stepped forward as Daemon approached the pit with the satchels. He did not bow. He did not kneel. He looked at Daemon the way a smith looks at a blade pulled from the forge, measuring, hungry, reverent. Daemon Targaryen, Benero said, voice deep and steady, carrying without effort, the drowned prince, the blade that refused the dark. Daemon did not offer courtesy. I came for dragons, he said, not titles. Benero's mouth curved in a faint smile. Dragons are titles written in flesh, he replied. His gaze shifted, landing on Daenerys. Something in his expression changed, softened, sharpened, both. And you, he said, voice lowering as if speaking in prayer. Daenerys Targaryen. Daenerys lifted her chin, wary. I am Daenerys, she said. The fire has sung your name for weeks, Benero said, and around them priests murmured, a low ripple. The city has dreams of you without knowing why. Viserys stepped forward, unable to bear being ignored. And me, he demanded. Viserys Targaryen. I am the... Benero's gaze flicked to him briefly, like a torchlight passing over a wall, then returned to Daemon and Daenerys. I know who you are, Benero said, and the dismissal in his tone made Viserys flush with rage. Daemon watched the boy's face tighten, saw the jealousy flare. He saw, too, the danger. This temple's attention already gathering around Daenerys like moths around flame, leaving Viserys in shadow. A king in shadow became desperate. Benero gestured to the pit. Bring them, he said. Daemon did not hand over the satchels. He walked to the pit himself and set them down. He untied each bundle with deliberate hands. The eggs emerged one by one, catching firelight. A murmur rose from the ring of priests as color and shape appeared. 10 pieces of sleeping doom. Daenerys drew a breath that sounded like pain. Viserys' eyes shone with hunger and vindication. He lifted his chin as if the eggs had crowned him. Benero watched the eggs without blinking. Stone remembers, he murmured. Stone remembers fire. He lifted his hands, palms outward. The priests around the hall began to chant, low at first. The sound was not the simple hymn Daemon had heard at the god's eye. It was older, layered, words braided together in high Valyrian and tongues Daemon did not recognize. A chant that made the air vibrate. Benero's gaze returned to Daemon. You will stand at the circle, he said. You and your blood. Daemon's eyes narrowed. Explain, he said. Nyessa stepped closer, voice soft at Daemon's shoulder. Fire is a door, she whispered. It opens for those it recognizes. And what does it recognize? Daemon asked, though he knew. Benero answered as if hearing him anyway. Blood, he said. Heat, will. Daemon felt the coal in his chest pulse, slow and heavy. He had no desire to become fuel for their god, but he had come here to wake dragons. He could not pretend ignorance of what that might demand. Benero's voice rose, addressing not only Daemon but the hall. The city will not enter, he declared. This rite is within our walls, but the city listens. The city waits. Today, Volantis will see if fire truly returns. A distant roar answered him. Not a voice, not the sea. A crowd outside, thousands strong, pressing against temple gates, shouting words Daemon could not make out but could feel like pressure. Bonero glanced toward the sound, then back. "If you would hatch dragons," he said to Daemon, "you must accept that the world will watch." Daemon stared at the pit and the eggs, at the red-painted glyphs like fresh wounds. He thought of Dragonstone's black sand, of the Baratheon banners, of a realm that had forgotten dragons and would panic when they returned. He thought of Viserys and Daenerys, thin, hunted, precious. "All right," Daemon said, voice flat. "Show me your fire." Before the rite began, the temple demanded a show of restraint. An attempt, Daemon realized, to keep the city from tearing itself apart in excitement. Nyessa led them into a courtyard that opened to the sky. The heat here was less suffocating, but the air still smelled of smoke. At the far end of the courtyard stood the great iron gates, and beyond them a wall of bodies. The crowd surged like a living tide. Men shouted, women cried, slaves pressed their faces against bars, eyes wild. Some held up crude carved flames. Some held up pieces of red cloth. Many simply reached, hands outstretched, as if they could pull fire through iron by force of desire. Volantis was a city built on chains, but chains did not stop hunger. Soldiers in dark cloaks patterned like tiger stripes held a line, spears braced. Their faces were tense. Every man here knew what a riot could do. They did not want to be eaten by their own city. Above, Caraxes crouched on a roofline like a demon carved from living meat. His wings were folded tight, but his sheer presence transformed the courtyard into a stage. Steam curled from his nostrils. His eye tracked the crowd as if measuring which portion would be tastiest. The sight did more than any priest's chant. The crowd's roar shifted, turning from frantic to reverent, the way men sound when they realize something can kill them. Nyessa walked to the gates, her robe trailing like spilled wine. She raised her hands. The nearest priests echoed her gesture. The chanting began again, low and steady. The crowd quieted by inches, like a beast lulled by a handler's voice. It did not go silent, it could not, but it softened enough that Daemon could hear individual words. "Fire!" someone screamed. "Dragons!" another shouted. A woman sobbed. "Save us, Lord of Light!" Daemon's stomach tightened. Save us. From what? From whom? He felt again that cold ache in his mind, a memory he did not own, a vision of ice. Viserys stood stiff beside him, face lit by torchlight. He was drinking in the attention like wine. "They are ours," he whispered, voice thick. "They will kneel." Daemon did not look at him. "They will burn," he said, quietly enough only Viserys could hear. "If they crowd too close." Daenerys watched the slaves press to the bars, their collars catching torchlight. Her mouth tightened. "They're chained," she whispered. "Yes," Daemon said. "Volantis is built on it." Daenerys's fingers curled into her cloak. "Then why do they pray for fire?" she asked, and the question was not childish. It was a blade aimed at the heart of things. Nyessa's voice came softly, as if hearing her. "They pray because chains are cold," she murmured, "and fire promises change." Daemon studied Nyessa's face. He wondered how much of her kindness was real and how much was a hook. A shout rose again from the crowd, louder. A man in a helmet adorned with a black plume pushed forward at the soldiers' line. He spoke to Nyessa, gesturing sharply, irritation clear even at a distance. Nyessa's expression did not change, but her eyes sharpened. She exchanged a few quick words, then turned away. Daemon watched the man. He moved like someone used to obedience. Captain, perhaps, or an envoy. Nyessa came back to Daemon, voice low. "The Triarchs send questions," she said. "They demand to know if a dragon will burn their enemies or their walls." Daemon's mouth curved. "Tell them," he said, "that dragons burn what they choose." Nyessa's eyes glinted with approval or calculation. "They will not like that answer," she said. "Then they can learn," Daemon replied. Caraxes shifted overhead, tail lashing once. The crowd flinched as if struck. A child screamed. Soldiers tightened their grips. Daemon felt the dragon's impatience through their bond like a pulse under skin. Caraxes wanted to fly. Caraxes wanted to roar. Caraxes wanted the city's fear to become meat. Daemon pressed calm into the bond. Not yet. Nyessa gestured toward the inner doors. It is time, she said. Daemon glanced once more at the crowd pressed behind iron, at the red ribbons and desperate eyes. He saw the shape of what was forming here. A faith swelling, a city leaning toward flame, ready to latch onto any dragon it could claim. He touched Dark Sister's hilt, reassuring himself with the cold certainty of steel. Then he turned away from the gates and walked back into the temple's belly, dragging the future behind him. They did not bring them straight to the pit. First came preparation, and with it the temple's real intent: control. They were led into a smaller chamber off the main hall where the stone walls sweated heat. Here the chanting from outside became muted, swallowed by thickness. A low altar stood in the center, stained dark in places where stone had drunk old offerings. On it sat a bowl of oil, thick and black, its surface flecked with powdered resin that sparkled like ground glass. A knife lay beside it, simple iron, not Valyrian steel. Its edge looked sharp enough to bite. Benero stood behind the altar as if he were a lord behind a table. Nyessa stood at his right, brazier in hand, flame steady. Priests ringed the chamber's edges, silent. Daemon kept his hand near Dark Sister. Viserys kept his mouth closed only because he sensed this was not a place where shouting would make him king. Daenerys watched the altar with careful stillness, as if aware that the bowl and knife were more dangerous than any sword. Benero dipped his fingers into the bowl and lifted them. Oil clung, black and shining. Fire needs a path, he said. Oil carries flame. Blood gives it meaning. Viserys swallowed. Meaning, he repeated, trying to sound confident. Our blood is royal. It will command the fire. Benero's gaze slid to him, unreadable. Fire is not commanded, he said. It is invited. And it tests the hand that invites. Daemon stepped forward. What do you intend? He asked bluntly. Speak plain. Benero held up the knife. A drop, he said. From each of you, blood for blood. The dragon eggs must know you. The fire must know you. Daemon's mind moved quick. A drop was nothing. Cut, a smear. But he had learned long ago that priests measured in drops the way poisoners measured in grains. The smallest offering could become a chain. Nyessa watched him as if waiting to see whether he would refuse. Her expression was calm, but her eyes held something sharp. Expectation. Daemon knew what refusing would look like here. It would look like weakness. It would look like fear. The priests would whisper that the drowned prince feared a simple cut. The city would take that whisper and feed it until it became truth. Daemon did not fear a cut. He rolled up his sleeve and bared the inside of his forearm. His skin there was pale under the temple's red light. He held out his arm without flinching. Benero raised the knife. Before it could touch, Daemon's hand shot out and closed around Benero's wrist. Iron met iron. Benero's eyes widened only slightly. I will cut myself, Daemon said. Benero did not fight. Slowly, he loosened his grip and let Daemon take the knife. Daemon turned it in his hand, examining the edge. Then he looked at Viserys and Daenerys. Watch, Daemon said, and the word was for all of them. He drew the knife across his palm, shallow but clean. Pain flashed bright. Blood welled immediately, red and startling against his pale skin. The sight made Viserys' face tighten. Daemon held his bleeding hand over the bowl and let several drops fall into the oil. They spread like ink in water. The moment his blood hit, the brazier flame in Nyessa's hands leapt higher, snapping as if hungry. Heat washed over Daemon's face. The coal in his chest pulsed, answering. Benero watched, eyes gleaming. Yes, he murmured, and the single word held triumph. Daemon wiped his hand on his cloak and closed his fingers, letting the cut sting. Now, Benero said, nodding toward Viserys. Viserys hesitated. Pride held him upright. Fear clenched his jaw. He took a step forward anyway. Daemon held out the knife handle first. "Do it," he said softly, and there was no mockery in it, only command. Viserys snatched the knife, glaring as if the glare could mask his trembling. He drew it across his palm, too deep. Blood flowed faster than Daemon's had. Viserys sucked in a breath, shocked by his own pain. "Not so much," Daemon snapped, irritation flaring. "You're not slaughtering a pig." Viserys glared, but he held his hand over the bowl and let his blood fall. The brazier flame leapt again, higher still, and a shiver ran through the chamber as if the stone itself reacted. Daenerys stepped forward last. She looked at the knife, then at her egg held close. Her fingers tightened once around the shell as if borrowing courage. She took the knife from Viserys without looking at him. She drew it across her palm, shallow, blood-welled, bright and clean. When her drops fell into the oil, the flame changed. It did not simply leap. It steadied, rising taller, calmer, turning a deeper red at its core. The air warmed like breath on skin. The chanting from beyond the chamber seemed, for a heartbeat, to sync with the flame's pulse. Nyessa's eyes widened. Benero's face softened into reverence. Even the silent priests along the wall leaned forward slightly, as if pulled. Viserys stared at Daenerys's bleeding hand with sudden hatred, as if her blood had stolen something from him. Daemon watched the flame and felt, unwillingly, the stir of awe. Whatever magic lived in this temple, it recognized the girl. Benero dipped his fingers into the bowl and lifted them, oil and blood shining. "Now," he said, voice thick, "we anoint the door." Daemon's hand tightened around Dark Sister's hilt. He had come for dragons, and in Volantis, the path to dragons ran through blood. The main hall swallowed them again. The pit waited at its center like a mouth painted red. Priests formed rings around it, their chanting rising and falling in waves. The air vibrated with the sound. Daemon could feel it in his teeth. Outside, beyond thick doors, the crowd's roar pressed like weather. Daemon knelt at the pit's edge and placed the eggs one by one onto the black stone within, arranging them with a soldier's care. He did not know which color meant which temper, which shell hid what kind of hunger. He only knew that each was a future that might bite the hand that woke it. Benero dipped his fingers into the oil bowl and began to paint glyphs around the eggs, thick black lines that glistened wetly. As he worked, he spoke words into the air that felt heavy, old. Daemon understood fragments: fire, blood, remember, wake. Nyessa circled the pit with her brazier, letting smoke curl down like a veil. The smoke smelled of myrrh and crushed spice and something metallic. It made Daemon's skin itch. Daenerys stood at the pit's edge opposite Daemon. Her cut palm had been wrapped in clean cloth, but a small red bloom had already spread through it. She stared at the eggs as if she could see through shell into whatever slept beneath. Viserys stood beside her, hand bandaged too, face tight with pain and wounded pride. He watched Benero paint glyphs and looked as if he wanted to snatch the bowl and do it himself, to make the ritual obey his imagined authority. Benero finished the circle of glyphs and lifted his hands. The chanting stopped abruptly, the sudden silence so sharp it made Daemon's ears ring. Benero's voice filled the hall. "Fire," he intoned. "Remember your children." Nyessa tipped her brazier, letting coals spill into the pit's outer ring. A ring of small flames sprang up where the coals fell, licking along the red glyphs as if the paint itself were fuel. The flames circled the eggs without touching them. Heat rose, steady. Benero looked at Daemon. "You," he said. Daemon understood. He stepped closer to the pit and held his cut palm over the nearest egg. Blood dripped, slow. He let it fall. The drop hit the shell and spread into the egg's pattern like spilled wine on stone. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the egg warmed under Daemon's hovering hand. Not imagination, heat, real enough that Daemon felt it as a pulse. A murmur rose from the priests, held back by discipline. Benero looked at Viserys. "You." Viserys hesitated only a moment this time. He stepped forward, angry at having hesitated before. He held his bleeding hand over another egg, dark green marbled with bronze, and let blood fall. The flame ring flared. Viserys' eyes widened. For a heartbeat, triumph flashed. "It answers me," he whispered. Daemon's gaze snapped to him, warning, "Do not mistake response for obedience." Benero turned to Daenerys. "And you?" he said, voice almost gentle. Daenerys stepped forward, slow. She lifted her wrapped hand, unwound the cloth, exposing the shallow cut. Blood had pooled, bright. She held her palm over the cream and gold egg she had carried. When her blood fell, the egg did not simply warm, pulsed. Daemon saw it in the way the shell seemed to brighten beneath the firelight, as if light came from within. A tremor ran through the pit stone. The ring of flame leaned inward, drawn. Daenerys's breath hitched. Her eyes widened, not with fear but with sudden, aching recognition. She began, and then the chanting rose again, drowning her words. Benero lifted both hands high. "Fire!" he shouted. "Wake!" The priest's chant surged into a roar. The flames climbed higher, forming a low wall around the eggs. Heat battered Daemon's face. Sweat sprang on his brow. In the heart of the fire, one egg shifted. Daemon's entire body went still. A soft sound, so small it might have been imagined, echoed in the pit. Tick, like a fingernail against stone. Daenerys leaned forward instinctively, eyes shining. Viserys lunged half a step, caught by Daemon's sudden hand reaching across the pit edge to stop him. "Stay!" Daemon snarled, and Viserys froze, outraged. The tick came again, louder. One egg, dark gray flecked with silver, developed a hairline crack across its shell. The sight punched the breath from Daemon's lungs. The priests around them cried out, voices breaking into ecstatic sobs. Niasa's face lit with triumph so fierce it looked like hunger. Benero's eyes burned as if reflecting a deeper flame. "Yes," he whispered. "Yes." Daemon stared at the crack as if staring at a blade being forged. He felt the coal in his chest burn hotter, and for a heartbeat he wondered if this was truly hatching, or if the fire was simply opening a door it could not close. The crack was not enough for the temple. Daemon sensed it in the way Benero's posture changed, the way Niasa's fingers tightened around her brazier. The priest's chanting shifted, deepened, taking on a harder rhythm. The crowd outside roared as if feeling something through stone. Benero lowered his hands and spoke into the chant, voice sharp. "The door opens," he declared, "but it must be pushed." Two acolytes emerged from a side passage dragging a man in chains. He was not dressed like a criminal lord or a rebel captain. He wore a simple slave's cloth, ragged and stained. His wrists were raw where iron had bitten. His face was bruised. His eyes were huge, white-ringed with terror. The man's feet slipped on the hot stone as he was pulled forward. He stumbled, nearly falling into the pit's flame ring. Heat singed his hair. He sobbed once, a sound like an animal. Daenerys made a small, strangled noise. Daemon's mind snapped into clarity. "No," he said, the word cutting through the chant like steel. Benero did not look at him. "A life for life," he said. "Blood for blood. The fire is hungry." Niasa's gaze met Daemon's briefly. There was apology there, or the imitation of it. "This one is condemned," she said softly. "A murderer, a rapist. His life was forfeit already." Daemon's eyes flicked to the chained man's face. Terror made all men look the same. "What is his name?" Daemon demanded. The man blinked, sobbing. "Korhaz," he croaked, voice broken. "Please, please, I didn't." The priests forced him to his knees at the pit's edge. Flames licked close, making the air shimmer. The man's chains rattled as he tried to crawl backward. Benero lifted the iron knife. Daemon stepped forward, Dark Sister sliding half an inch from its sheath with a whisper that carried despite the chanting. The sound alone made nearby priests flinch. "You will not kill him for your god," Daemon said. Benero's gaze snapped to him at last. The high priest's eyes burned with anger now, not only devotion. "You would deny the fire?" he hissed. You would deny dragons their birth? I deny you, Daemon said, voice low. You do not get to decide what my blood pays. The hall's chant faltered. Priests glanced at one another, uncertain. The fire ring flickered, reacting to the disruption. Daenerys stepped forward, face pale. There must be another way, she said, voice shaking but firm. He's frightened. Nyessa's gaze softened toward her. Child, she whispered. Fear is the kindling of faith. Viserys' voice rose, brittle. Do it, he said suddenly, and Daemon felt the boy's desperation like a bad smell. If it hatches the dragons, do it. Sacrifice him. Sacrifice 10. Who cares? They are slaves. Daenerys turned her head sharply toward Viserys. Her eyes widened, then hardened in a way Daemon had not seen before. She looked as if she had been struck. Daemon's hand moved like a whip. He grabbed Viserys by the front of his tunic and yanked him close. You will not speak in this hall again, Daemon said softly. If you want to keep your tongue. Viserys stared at him, panting, fury and fear mixing. For a heartbeat, Daemon thought the boy might spit in his face. Then Viserys' gaze flicked to the flames and the chained man and the watching priests, and he swallowed his rage into silence. Daemon released him and turned back to Benero. You want blood, Daemon said. Fine. But the blood will be mine to give. Benero's mouth tightened. Your drops have been given, he said. The fire demands more. Daemon looked down at Korhaz, trembling on his knees. The man's eyes darted between Daemon's silver hair and the black blade at his hip as if trying to decide which death was kinder. Daemon's mind moved. The fire wanted sacrifice. The priests wanted spectacle. The city outside wanted proof. Daemon refused to be guided by their hunger, yet he could not deny that something had responded, that a crack had formed. He could not deny the pull of the eggs. He made a decision in the only way he knew, with ownership. Daemon stepped toward Korhaz, crouched, and gripped the man's chin hard enough to force his face up. Did you kill? Daemon asked. Korhaz shook, tears streaming. They said I did, he sobbed. They said, please. Daemon held his gaze for a long moment, searching for something. Guilt, emptiness, truth. Terror told him nothing. Daemon released the man and straightened. You do not get him, Daemon said to Benero. Not as an offering you can claim. Benero's eyes narrowed. Then how? He demanded. Daemon drew Dark Sister fully. The blade drank flame and returned it as cold gleam. Gasps rippled through the priests. Daemon held the sword up, letting the hall see it. By my hand, he said, voice carrying. By my will. He looked down at Korhaz. If you are condemned, Daemon said, then you die for dragons, not for priests. Korhaz sobbed, shaking so hard his chains clinked. Daenerys' breath caught, horror and helplessness warring on her face. She stepped forward as if to stop Daemon, then stopped herself, realizing there was no stopping fire once it had decided to burn. Daemon raised Dark Sister. The blade fell. He did not linger on it. He did not make it art. He made it swift. Blood spilled onto the pit's black stone, steaming where it touched the heat. The fire ring surged inward with a hungry roar. The chant erupted, shaking the hall. Priests screamed prayers. Outside, the crowd's roar turned into something like madness. Daemon stared at the eggs through the rising flames, face splattered with fine mist of blood, eyes cold. Now, he murmured, not to the priests, not to any god, but to the sleeping futures before him. Wake! The fire answered. It did not answer as a tame thing, not as a candle flame coaxed by breath. It answered like a beast released from a cage. The ring of flame collapsed inward, licking across the black stone toward the eggs, not touching the shells directly but pressing heat into them with relentless hunger. The red glyphs flared brighter, as if the paint itself had become molten. Smoke thickened, rolling across the pit in choking waves. Daemon's vision wavered in the heat shimmer. For a heartbeat, he saw the eggs not as stone but as hearts, each one beating faintly. The cracked gray egg shuddered. A line of shell split further with a sharp, wet sound. Heat rushed out of it, a breath trapped for centuries. The crack widened. Something pale and slick moved beneath the shell, just a glimpse, then disappeared again. Daenerys made a sound between a sob and a laugh. She reached forward, forgetting fire, forgetting priests, forgetting Daemon's warning. Her fingers hovered inches above the egg. "Don't touch," Daemon snapped, but his voice came out rough, not holy command. He understood her pull too well. It was the pull of blood toward blood. Daenerys' hand trembled. She did not touch. The egg shook again, harder. Shell fractured with another sharp sound. Viserys gasped. The blast of heat that surged out hit him full in the face. He stumbled back, hands flying up instinctively. His bandaged palm brushed too close to the flame ring and he yelped, the cloth singeing. Pain and humiliation twisted his expression. "It's mine," he rasped, voice raw. "It's..." "No," Daemon said, eyes locked on the egg. "It's nothing yet." Daenerys' face shone with sweat and ecstasy. "Yes," he whispered again, and the words sounded like a man tasting salvation. "Yes, fire. Yes." Nyessa stood very still, brazier held close. Her eyes were wide. For the first time since Daemon had met her, she looked afraid, not of the dragon or the sword, but of the success of her own prayers. The cracked eggshell began to lift. A small portion flaked away, falling onto the black stone and smoking. Beneath, a slick shape pushed outward, pale and wet. A claw, tiny but sharp as a thorn, scraped at the shell's edge. Then, as if something in the fire shifted mood, the flames surged higher and the egg jerked back, retreating into itself. The shell shuddered, the crack holding but not widening. The fire ring snapped outward again, as if denied. The sudden flare forced everyone at the pit's edge to step back. Daenerys stumbled, caught by Daemon's hand on her arm. His grip was hard, but it kept her from falling into fire. She looked up at him, eyes wet, face flushed from heat. "It's alive," she whispered, voice full of raw certainty. Daemon's throat tightened. He looked down at the egg, crack still visible like a scar. "Alive, yes, but not born." Daenerys lowered his hands slowly, and the chanting began to soften, not stopping but shifting into a slower rhythm, like a beast being soothed after snapping. "The door is open," Daenerys said, voice hoarse. "Only a little. The first breath has been taken." Viserys wiped his cheek, staring at his singed bandage with fury. "Then open it more," he snapped. "Finish it." Daenerys' gaze turned toward him, cool now, the ecstasy fading into something more calculating. "Fire does not hurry," he said. "Fire consumes at its own pace." Daemon looked at the pit stone where Korha's blood had steamed and darkened. He thought of the man's eyes, wide and pleading, before the blade fell. He thought of how little it had changed. A crack, a glimpse of life, not yet a hatchling. "More blood," Nyessa murmured quietly beside Daenerys, and Daemon heard it, the temple's hunger turning already toward the next offering. Daemon's jaw clenched. "No more," he said, voice hard. Daenerys' gaze met his. In it Daemon saw not defiance but negotiation, the way priests and kings always did. "How far can I push before the blade answers?" "The fire will ask again," Daenerys said softly. "If you deny it, you deny dragons." Daemon stared at him, and in the heat of the hall the coal in Daemon's chest felt like it might burn through skin. "Then the fire can ask me," Daemon said, and the threat in his voice was not subtle. Daenerys smiled faintly, as if pleased by stubbornness. "It already has," he murmured. The chanting continued, slower now, holding the eggs in heat like hands holding a newborn not yet ready to breathe. Daenerys watched the cracked egg with devotion that frightened Daemon in a different way than priests did. Viserys watched it too, but his gaze was possessive, angry, as if the egg's reluctance insulted him. Daemon watched both of them and wondered which hunger would prove more dangerous. By nightfall, the rite had ended without triumph enough to satisfy the city, but with enough promise to set it on fire. The cracked egg had been moved, Daemon had insisted, into a private chamber deeper within the temple, away from eager hands. The priests had wanted to keep it near the pit, near the glyphs and flame, but Daemon had stared them down until Nyessa herself relented. Benero had allowed it with a smile that told Daemon the high priest expected to win later. Daemon refused to wait meekly. He left the temple after sunset with Daenerys and Viserys under heavy cloaks, their silver hair hidden. Nyessa sent 2 acolytes to guide them through the city streets and keep Volantine guards from prying. Daemon did not like having escorts, but he liked wandering blind even less. Volantis at night was a beast. Torches burned along streets lined with brick and painted stone. Music drifted from taverns. The river smelled of rot and spices. Slaves flowed through alleys like shadows, carrying baskets and bodies and fear. The city's wealthy rode in litters behind curtains, their laughter muffled. Daemon watched everything with a warrior's eye. He noted patrol routes. He counted guards. He listened for rumors like a man tasting wine. And everywhere he saw the red. Flame symbols painted on walls. Red cloth tied around wrists. Red priests preaching on corners, their voices hoarse with prophecy. Fire has returned. One shouted as Daemon passed. Dragons will cleanse the world. Chains will melt. Slaves clustered around them, eyes bright, hungry for any promise of change. Daenerys slowed at the sight of the slaves. She stared at collars and chains and bruised wrists, at a woman kneeling on a block while a man examined her teeth, at a boy no older than 10 being dragged along by a rope tied to his neck. Her face tightened until it looked like pain. Viserys turned his head away in disgust. "Filth," he muttered. "This city stinks of it." Daenerys' eyes snapped to him. "They're people," she said, and the words came out sharp. Viserys scoffed. "They're slaves," he replied. "Like all Essos, it has nothing to do with us." Daemon watched the exchange, and for the first time he saw something in Daenerys that was not simply endurance. Anger. Not the tantrum anger Viserys carried, but a deeper one, quieter and more dangerous. They reached a market square where torches burned high and merchants shouted over one another. Sellswords leaned against walls, counting coin. Slavers haggled. A fat man in jeweled rings laughed as a girl in chains was forced to dance for him. Daemon's hand tightened around the hilt of a knife hidden beneath his cloak. A familiar sound reached him, common speech with Pentoshi accent, quick and careful. Daemon's gaze slid to the edge of the square where 2 men stood under a lantern. One wore a merchant's coat. The other wore plain clothes but carried himself like someone used to being obeyed. They spoke quietly, eyes scanning the crowd. Daemon's instincts sharpened. He recognized the posture. Agent. Spy. Illyrio's kind. He kept walking, pulling the children with him into the shadow of a narrow alley. He pressed them against the wall and peered back. The plain-clothed man turned his head slightly, and the lantern light caught his face. Daemon's jaw tightened. He had seen that face before in Pentos, among Illyrio's household guards. Not the same man, but the same kind. Loyal to coin. Loyal to whoever held their leash. Illyrio had not wasted time. Daemon's mind raced. If Illyrio's agents were here, they might try to steal the children back, or steal the eggs. They might pay assassins. They might whisper to Volantis' triarchs, offering gold for cooperation. They might even bargain with Benero, playing faith against faith. Daemon cursed silently. Daenerys leaned close, whispering, "What is it? Trouble that followed us?" Daemon murmured. Viserys' breath hitched. "Illyrio," he whispered, and fear sharpened his tone. "He'll. He will not touch you," Daemon said, and there was promise in it, cold and absolute. He glanced again toward the square. The agent spoke to a third man now, one in a tiger cloak, soldier. They exchanged something small, coin, perhaps. The soldier nodded and moved away. Daemon's stomach tightened. If Volantine soldiers were being bought, then the temple's walls were not enough. Nyessa's acolytes tugged at Daemon's sleeve, whispering urgently. "We must return," one said. "The streets grow dangerous. The city." Daemon cut him off with a glance. The city was always dangerous, he said. He led the children back through twisting alleys, avoiding main roads. Behind them, the market's noise faded. Ahead, the Red Temple's roof rose like a wound against the night sky. As they approached the temple gates, Daemon heard chanting again, louder now, mixing with the crowd's roar. Slaves gathered near the temple, singing of fire. Soldiers watched with nervous hands on spear shafts. Inside, the temple's corridors felt tighter than before. The air smelled of incense and sweat and something else. Fear. Daemon's hand went to Dark Sister as they neared their chamber. He did not like fear in a place that claimed certainty. The first scream came from far down the corridor. Short, cut off quickly. Daemon sat up from the thin mattress like a man waking to battle. Dark Sister was in his hand before his feet hit the floor. The eggs lay bundled beside the bed, their presence a weight in the room's warmth. Daenerys woke too, eyes wide, breath quick. Viserys flinched upright with a gasp, reaching for something, anything. His fingers closing around a heavy candlestick. Another sound followed. Running feet, muffled by stone, then the unmistakable scrape of a blade being drawn. Daemon moved to the door and pressed his ear to it. He heard whispers, fast and urgent, not in Valyrian or Volantine common, Pentoshi perhaps, or Tyroshi. He heard the soft clink of metal. He unlatched the door silently and pulled it open a crack. Two figures slid along the corridor's far wall, cloaked in dark cloth, faces hidden behind masks. Their movements were practiced. One carried a short blade. The other carried something longer, a thin sword, perhaps. Assassins. Daemon opened the door fully and stepped into the corridor. Cloak falling open, silver hair catching torchlight. The assassins froze for the smallest heartbeat. Long enough. Daemon moved. Dark Sister flashed in the torchlight like a piece of night. The first assassin tried to raise his blade. Daemon's sword cut across the man's forearm, severing muscle. The assassin screamed, the sound muffled by his mask. Blood sprayed against the stone. The second assassin lunged, blade aimed for Daemon's throat. Daemon leaned aside, the blade grazing his cloak. He drove his shoulder into the assassin's chest, slamming him into the wall. The man's head cracked stone with a dull thud. Daemon's sword came up and slid between ribs with smooth inevitability. The assassin convulsed once, then sagged. More footsteps pounded from the far end of the corridor. 3 more dark-clad figures appeared, their eyes catching torchlight, their daggers glinting. Daemon's heart did not race. It steadied. Violence was familiar. It fit his hands like a glove. He backed toward the chamber doorway, positioning himself so the assassins could not slip past him toward the eggs. "Stay inside," he snapped to Daenerys and Viserys without looking back. Daenerys did not retreat far. She stood just inside the doorway, egg clutched to her chest, eyes fixed on Daemon's blade and the men approaching. Her face was pale but not empty. She watched with the intensity of someone learning. Viserys stood behind her, candlestick raised, knuckles white. He looked as if he might vomit. The assassins rushed. Daemon met them with steel. The first swung low. Daemon stepped over the blade and cut down across the man's shoulder, splitting cloth and flesh. The assassin fell, screaming. The second tried to dart past toward the door. Daemon pivoted and slammed the flat of Dark Sister into the man's skull. Bone cracked. The assassin collapsed, twitching. The third hesitated, seeing the deaths, and that hesitation doomed him. Daemon's blade pierced his throat. The man's eyes widened, then emptied. Silence hit like a wall, broken only by the drip of blood. Daemon stood in the corridor breathing hard, blade dripping. The temple's torch flames flickered, disturbed by the movement and perhaps by something else, some current of fear. From the far end of the corridor, red-robed acolytes arrived at a run, armed with spears and clubs. Nyessa pushed through them, her face tight with fury. "What have you done?" she demanded, seeing bodies. "What they came to do," Daemon replied. Nyessa's gaze flicked to the assassins' clothing, to their masks. She knelt quickly and yanked one mask off. Underneath was a face marked with the faint scar of a slave brand. Nyessa's eyes narrowed. "Not our men," she murmured, and there was relief in it, quickly hidden. "Whose then?" Daemon demanded. Nyessa looked up at him, jaw set. "The Triarchs have enemies," she said. "And the temple has enemies. Some fear what you bring. Some desire it. Some—" Her eyes flicked toward the chamber door, toward the eggs. "Would steal fire and call it their own." Daemon wiped Dark Sister on an assassin's cloak and sheathed it with a controlled motion that kept his hand from shaking. The coal in his chest burned hot, not from the fight but from realization. They were surrounded by hunger from every side. Priests, Triarchs, merchants, slavers, magisters, and Illyrio's leashmen were among them. Daemon stepped closer to Nyessa. "Double your guards," he said. "Lock down the temple. No one comes near these chambers without my permission." Nyessa's eyes flashed. "This is my temple," she hissed. Daemon's smile was thin. "Then keep it," he said, "by doing what I say." Nyessa held his gaze for a long beat. Then she nodded once, sharp, swallowing pride because fear was larger than pride. Her acolytes dragged the bodies away, blood smearing on stone. Nyessa ordered torches replaced and corridors patrolled. Daemon went back into the chamber and barred the door himself. Daenerys looked up at him, clutching her egg. "They wanted us," she whispered. "They wanted what you carry," Daemon said. Viserys swallowed hard, still holding the candlestick like a child holds a toy sword. "I'll kill them," he whispered, trying to make his voice sound like a king's. Came out small. Daemon looked at him, expression unreadable. "Learn to hold steel," Daemon said, "or you will be killed by men who do." Viserys' face flushed, but he said nothing. Daemon sat on the edge of the bed with Dark Sister across his knees and the eggs bundled close. He did not sleep again. He listened to footsteps in the corridor, to distant chanting, to the crackle of braziers. And in the quiet between sounds, he heard it again, the faintest tick, like a claw-testing shell from within. The temple's night bled into morning without mercy. The brazier in their chamber burned low, throwing soft red light that made shadows long and thin. Daenerys knelt on the stone floor beside the cracked egg, her cloak pooled around her. She had not moved for a long time. Daemon could tell by the stiffness in her shoulders, by the way her hands hovered near the shell without touching, as if the smallest contact might decide everything. The crack had widened, not by much. A hairline had become a thin, jagged seam. Tiny flakes of shell lay on the cloth like gray scales. When the egg warmed, the seam seemed to darken as if something damp pressed from within. When it cooled, it looked like dead stone again. Daemon watched it the way he watched battlefields, waiting for a shift that would tell him where death would strike. Viserys sat against the wall with his bandaged hand held close, jaw clenched. The cloth on his palm was singed at the edges. He stared at the egg as though it were both salvation and insult. Each time the shell trembled, Viserys flinched, then forced himself still, trying to look unafraid. Outside the door, acolytes stood guard, their footsteps shifting now and then. Daemon had demanded the guards. Nyessa had given them, but Daemon knew guards could be bought, frightened, or made faithful to the wrong flame. He trusted only steel, and even steel could turn. Daenerys whispered without looking up. "It's trying," she said. Daemon's throat tightened. "Yes," he replied. Daenerys swallowed, eyes fixed on the egg. "What if it dies?" she asked, and the question was not childish. It was the question of someone who had watched too many fragile things break. Daemon's mouth hardened. "It won't," he said, though he did not know if it was true. Daenerys lifted her gaze at last. In the brazier light her eyes looked darker, almost black, but the purple was there beneath, bruised and deep. "They killed someone for it," she whispered. "You did." Daemon held her gaze. He did not offer comfort he did not possess. "Yes," he said. Daenerys flinched slightly, but she did not look away. "Will they ask again?" she asked. Daemon's jaw tightened. He looked down at the egg. They will, he said. Daenerys nodded slowly, as if accepting a bitter lesson. Her fingers curled into her cloak. Then we should leave, she whispered, before they take more. Viserys snapped, voice sharp. Leave? He hissed. When it's finally happening, when the city is ready to kneel. You want to run again? Daenerys' eyes cut to him, and the anger their startled demon. I want to live, she said. I want the dragons to live, not to feed priests and slavers. Viserys' face twisted. You speak like a slave, he spat. Demon moved before the insult finished forming. He crossed the room and backhanded Viserys hard enough to snap his head sideways. The sound echoed in the stone chamber. Viserys stared, stunned, eyes wide, cheek reddening. You will not speak to her that way, Demon said quietly. Ever again. Viserys' lips trembled, fury rising. You have no right. Demon leaned close, voice low and deadly. I have every right, he murmured, because I am the only thing between you and the world that wants to put you on a leash. Viserys' breath hitched. He swallowed his words, humiliation swallowing rage for the moment. Demon stepped back and looked at Daenerys. We do not leave yet, he said. Not while the eggs are waking. Not while they are this close. Daenerys' eyes widened slightly. So we stay, she whispered, and the words were not agreement so much as resignation. We stay, Demon confirmed, but on my terms. He turned toward the door, feeling the weight of decisions settling like armor. At first light, he said, Nyessa brings me the Triarch's envoy. Benero brings me the names of every man who moved in my corridors last night. And Caraxes goes where the city can see him. Daenerys frowned. Why? She asked. Demon's mouth curved, sharp. Because fear is the only language half this world speaks, he said. And I am done whispering. A faint tick sounded from the egg. All three of them froze. Demon crossed the room and knelt beside Daenerys, careful not to touch the shell. He watched the crack. Something moved beneath it. Again, just a glimpse. A tiny claw, pale and slick, pressing against the seam, testing. Daenerys' breath stopped. Tears shone on her lashes. Viserys leaned forward despite himself, hunger overriding pride for a heartbeat. The claw withdrew. The egg went still, as if exhausted by its own attempt. Demon exhaled slowly, controlling his own frustration. Soon, he murmured, and he did not know whether he was speaking to the hatchling or to himself. Outside, the temple's bells began to toll low and slow, calling the city to another day of fire. Demon rose, hand on Dark Sister's hilt, and looked at the eggs as if they were a war he intended to win. Volantis would not own them. The Red God would not own them. Only dragons would decide what dragons belonged to. And Daemon Targaryen did not intend to be anyone's miracle again.